You wake before the city itself stirs, before the canoes begin sliding across the surface of the lake, before the calls of traders drift from the causeways. The air around you feels thick, a damp coolness that clings to your skin as though the mist itself has wrapped you in a blanket. You rise slowly, because in this hour nothing hurries. You stretch your arms out in the dimness and feel the reed mats shift beneath your palms, rough but familiar. The hut is quiet except for the faint rasp of another man's breathing, steady and even, as if he refuses to be rushed by the demands of the temple. When you step outside, the mist lifts slightly, trailing upward in faint curls that look like smoke from invisible fires. The city of Tenochtitlan sits still, almost patient, as though it waits for the weight of the sun. You glance across the wide lake. The water barely ripples, holding the grey-pink reflection of dawn. Somewhere far off you can make out the faint silhouettes of temple pyramids, their shapes softened by distance, their edges swallowed by haze. The ground beneath your bare feet is damp, slick from the night's dew. Each step leaves a faint dark print that disappears almost as soon as it forms, as if the earth is in no mood to remember. You carry your body with the steady calm of one who knows his day has been decided long before he woke. The temple drums will sound, the priests will appear, and your tongue will be pierced with bone and faith. There is no question about it, no hesitation. That is what it is to wake here. You breathe in the scent of wet stone, mingled with the faint sweetness of flowers set out by the women the evening before. Some petals remain fresh, others have already wilted into soft curls, darkened by dampness, giving off a faint sour tang. It is not unpleasant. It reminds you that nothing here lasts unchanged, not even blossoms left in honor of the gods. You take a slow breath through your nose, filling your chest with the mixed perfume of city and soil, water and wood smoke that lingers from yesterday's cooking fires. Your eyes lift to the east. The edge of the sky begins to pale, smudged with streaks of gold that do not yet reach you. You know the city will wake fully when the sun climbs, when voices rise across the causeways, when children splash water against their faces, when traders shout for space in crowded markets. But now it is only you and the other soldiers awake, drawn by the same duty, pulled forward by the same invisible tether. You feel yourself part of something larger, though you also feel the solitary heaviness of your own body, still stiff from sleep. You rub your arms slowly, warming the muscles with the pressure of your own palms. The air bites lightly, cool enough to leave a shiver across your shoulders. Around you, other men rise too, quiet, moving without words. One ties a cloth around his waist, another tightens the cords of his sandals. None of you speak, because speaking before the drums would feel like trying to teach the lake how to move. It would not be fitting. The huts along the edges of the temple causeway show faint signs of life. A child turns in her mat. A dog stirs and curls its tail tighter. A woman pushes open a woven doorframe to glance into the mist before pulling it closed again. These fragments of motion remind you that the city is not sleeping. It is simply not ready to be loud yet. And so you walk quietly, letting your steps fall in rhythm with the silence. The stones that lead toward the temple lie slick beneath your feet, worn smooth by years of passage. You step carefully, letting your toes feel their way forward, the coolness seeping into the soles of your feet. Each slab carries the memory of countless others who have walked here in other mornings, for other oaths, for other offerings. You sense them as shadows that never quite leave. Ahead, the temple rises faintly against the dim sky. Its tiers climb upward like steps for giants, each level waiting patiently for the day to fill it with people and sound. But now, at this hour, it seems softer, its sharp angles blurred by distance and mist. You stand for a moment and let your eyes travel over its shape, the familiar weight of stone against sky. The pyramid is always there, like a mountain that grows from human will instead of the earth's shifting. It is the place you walk toward without thought, because that is the place where the gods listen. You draw another breath and let it out slowly. The day ahead will be long, filled with chants, with smoke, with needles that pierce flesh, and the taste of salt on your tongue. But for now, in this first hour, all you do is wake. You wake with the mist. you wake with the lake. You wake with the temple standing still in front of you, a silent reminder that the gods are waiting but never rushing. The city is quiet, and so are you. That is the beginning. You stretch slowly, arms lifting above your head, shoulders stiff from sleep and from yesterday's drills. The sky is pale now, though still heavy with the grey of night that has not quite surrendered. You roll your neck side to side and hear a faint crack, more felt than heard. The temple causeway stretches before you, a long ribbon of stone leading toward the Great Pyramid, and already you see the first movements of priests sweeping its steps. They sweep not as if dirt could truly be banished, for the air always carries dust, the lake always leaves residue, and the feet of thousands will soon track more upon the stones. They sweep as a signal, a way to mark the beginning of the day, pushing the night away with steady strokes of reed broom. You stand watching for a moment, your body tall and unmoving, while the faint hiss of bristles against stone carries on the morning air. Your legs ache faintly from standing, so you bend forward at the waist and stretch again, pressing your palms against your shins, feeling the pull of muscles along your back. The cool stone beneath your feet is almost slick, and the chill sends a shiver up your calves. You straighten slowly, vertebra by vertebra, the way your elders taught you to move when greeting the day. Beside you, another soldier mimics the same motions, though you do not glance directly at him. He exhales with a long sigh, a sound that fogs in the cold air before vanishing. The two of you are not speaking, yet your bodies fall into the same rhythm. This is how mornings often go here. You stretch not for yourself alone, but as part of a quiet line of others, each body echoing the other without a word. You roll your shoulders, feeling the leather strap of your cloak shift against your skin. It creaks faintly, damp from the night, stiff from use. You tug it tighter, then release it, deciding the cool air belongs against your body for a little while longer. The mist clings still, though thinner now, revealing more of the temple's rising stairs. You can make out carved shapes along its edges, serpent heads, weathered by years but never losing their watchful gaze. The priests continue to sweep. Their movements are unhurried, deliberate. They lean into their work, backs bending in fluid arcs, then rising again to strike the stone with the broom. The rhythm is slow, steady, and you find your breathing falling in line with it. Sweep, inhale. Sweep, exhale. The ritual is as much for the body as it is for the stone. A faint sound carries across the water, the distant creak of a canoe's paddle. You glance sideways, though the mist blurs everything beyond the causeway. Somewhere out there, a fisherman stirs early, sliding his canoe along the edge of the lake, ignoring temples and oaths, seeking only fish for his family. You wonder if his morning feels heavier than yours or lighter. Either way, his paddle will rise and fall just as surely as the priest's brooms, just as surely as your own chest. Your arms lift again, fingers spread wide, and you arch backward slightly, opening your chest toward the grey sky. The stretch is simple, familiar, and it pulls the tightness from your ribs. You let your arms fall, shake them gently, then rub your palms together until warmth prickles across them. The sound of skin against skin, faint but sharp, feels louder in this quiet hour. A priest straightens on the stairs, leaning against his broom to catch his breath. He is not old, though lines already mark his forehead from years of frowning in sunlight. His white cloak is streaked faintly with dust, but he does not brush it away. He simply rests, looking downward toward the causeway, his gaze sweeping over you and the others as if to remind you that he sees, and he notes, and he expects. You lower your eyes politely, not in shame, but in acknowledgement. The stone causeway beneath you still holds its night chill. Your toes curl against it, flexing as if to grip the coolness more firmly. You let your weight shift from heel to toe, back again, then still yourself once more. Each small motion is slow, deliberate, part of this long waking. Nothing here is hurried. The gods are eternal. The temple is eternal. You are the one who must learn patience. From the steps, the sweeping resumes. One priest hums faintly, not words, only a low drone to keep time with his strokes. Another joins in, the two voices merging into a tone that is not melody, not chant, only vibration. It thrums faintly in your chest even from this distance, a reminder that sound itself can be weight. You breathe in, match the length of their exhale, and let your body move once more into a gentle stretch. The day grows brighter, though the sun has not yet broken the horizon. You can feel it waiting, pressing from behind the mountains. The mist begins to thin, lifting in pieces, unveiling more of the city beyond. You see rooftops layered like scales, canals glinting faintly, bridges arching in the pale glow. Soon, noise will come. But for now, there is only stone, mist, broom, stretch, and breath. You lower your arms once more and let them hang loosely at your sides. Your body feels looser now, warmed by its own small motions. Around you, the others finish their stretches as well, standing straighter, calmer. The priests continue to sweep, and you know they will sweep until the drums sound, until the sun strikes the temple stairs. But you will not wait that long. Soon you will move closer. For now, you remain here, stretching beside the causeway, letting the morning draw you in. You settle into the rhythm of the morning, your body warmer now, your joints less stiff, your breath steady. The faint light strengthens, sliding between the temple tiers and filtering across the causeway. You know what comes next, and so you drift toward the women's courtyard where the sound of grinding already begins. The noise is soft but persistent stone rubbing against stone, a slow rasp that repeats endlessly. Each pass of the mano against the metate carries weight, steady and even, as though the stone itself hums with patience. You pause just beyond the threshold, listening before stepping closer. The women kneel on mats, bodies bent forward, shoulders moving in unison, arms pressing grain against stone. Their motions are long, deliberate, practiced, until each breath and each push feel inseparable. The smell of maize rises faintly, sweet and warm even in its raw form. The kernels, soaked overnight, are pale and soft, their skins loosened, their bodies crushed into paste beneath the weight of the grinding. The scent is familiar, comforting, a smell that belongs to morning as surely as mist belongs to dawn. You draw it into your chest, letting it rest there, simple and steady. The women do not speak much as they work. Their breath is the only voice here, short exhalations timed with each push forward. Occasionally, one clears her throat softly, but even that sound blends with the grind of stone. They do not need words. The paste beneath their hands grows smooth, gathering slowly into bowls set at their sides, and the city's breakfast builds without announcement. You lower yourself to sit nearby, not to help, not to interfere, but simply to wait. Soldiers do not grind maize, yet you live within the rhythm of those who do. The steady rasp marks the hour as clearly as any drum. You close your eyes and hear it back forth scrape sigh until it settles into you like the pulse of your own blood. One woman pauses to adjust the cloth at her shoulder. Her skin glistens faintly in the cool air, already damp from effort. She wipes her palm against her thigh, leaving a faint streak of corn paste, then resumes her work without hesitation. Another woman leans forward more firmly, pressing her weight into the mano, her body swaying slightly, her breath pushing through clenched teeth. There is no rush, yet the work is endless. The maize must be ready before the sun clears the horizon. You notice how the ground beneath them is dusted pale from past grindings, as though the earth itself has taken on the memory of every meal prepared here. The mats are worn, fibers rough and split, yet they hold steady under knees and hands. You wonder how many mornings have passed like this, how many will continue when you are gone. From a nearby fire pit, smoke curls faintly, carrying the sharper scent of wood mixed with the sweetness of the maize. The fire has not yet grown large, only embers glowing, but soon pots will be set upon it, and steam will rise into the air. For now, you watch the simple preparation, the slow gathering of paste that will feed priests, soldiers, families, all who walk the city's streets. Your stomach tightens faintly at the smell, though you know you will not eat yet. Ritual comes first. Hunger is just another presence, like mist, like sound, like stone. You let it rest in you without struggle. It is familiar. The grinding continues. One woman hums softly to herself, a low tone, perhaps to keep her pace, perhaps to ease the silence. The others do not join, but her voice drifts easily, sliding between the scrape of stone. It is not melody so much as repetition, a line of sound that begins again and again, with no need to finish. You lean back against a post, letting its cool surface press against your shoulder. Your eyes wander upward, to where the sky has grown lighter, streaked with pale orange now. The first birds stir, flitting between rafters, their wings sharp against the air. You listen to them, but the grinding swallows their sound. Stone always swallows sound. One of the younger women glances at you briefly, eyes dark and calm, before returning to her work. She does not smile, does not frown. She simply acknowledges that you are there, part of the morning like she is. Her hands continue to move, palms pressing, arms steady, until more paste gathers in the bowl beside her. You imagine how it will be steamed later, wrapped, eaten slowly after the rituals. The thought drifts across your mind like smoke, not urgent, not distracting, just another shape among many. You close your eyes again, letting the scrape of stone wash over you, letting your breath fall into rhythm with theirs. The air is heavy with maize, smoke, damp reed, and faint sweat. It fills your lungs, then leaves, again and again, no different from yesterday, no different from tomorrow. When you open your eyes, the bowls are fuller, the women's arms shine more with effort, and the sound continues, unbroken. The priests will sweep until the sun arrives. The women will grind until the paste is ready. And you, waiting here, stretching your body and filling your chest with their rhythm, know the day has only just begun. You rise again, the stiffness in your legs softened by the time you have spent sitting. The scrape of stone on stone continues behind you as you step into the courtyard, where reed mats are being carried one by one. You bend to lift one yourself, the weight light but the bulk awkward in your hands. The woven reeds scratch faintly against your palms, their edges dry and brittle where the weave frays. The mats smell faintly of lake water and smoke, a reminder that they were rolled and stored against damp nights and cooking fires. As you carry yours across the open space, you feel the fibers bend and shift with each step, giving slightly under your grip but never breaking. The courtyard is wide, paved with stones that still hold the morning's coolness. Shadows stretch long across them, cast by pillars and walls, soft and slow-moving as the light shifts. You unroll the mat carefully, the reeds clicking faintly as they loosen and fall flat. The sound is small, but in the still courtyard it echoes more than you expect. The mat lies uneven at first, corners curled from being bound too tightly, but you smooth it with your palm, pressing until it rests properly against the stone. The surface will never be entirely flat, but it does not need to be. It only needs to be ready. Other soldiers do the same, each unrolling their mats, each pressing corners, each stepping back to check the space. You notice how the patterns differ, some woven tighter, some looser, some darker from reed chosen in late season, others pale and thin. The differences matter little. All will serve the same purpose, offering a place to kneel when the moment comes. A breeze drifts across the courtyard, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and faint flowers. It lifts the loose edges of a mat briefly, fluttering them before letting them fall again. You press them back down, though you know the wind will play with them again. That is the way of mornings here. Nothing lies perfectly still, not even stone when water and air press upon it. One mat unrolls with a louder snap, the soldier tugging it with less patience. He smooths it roughly, then shrugs as though it does not matter. But even his careless work leaves the mat usable. The gods will not frown at crooked corners. They will see only the act of kneeling. You watch him step back, then step onto his mat, pressing his weight down until it holds steady. You follow suit, testing yours beneath your feet, listening to the reeds crack softly but hold. The courtyard fills slowly with these rectangles of woven reeds, each one a small island upon the stone. You walk between them, your steps cautious, not wanting to catch your toes upon a curled edge. The mats lie in ordered rows, forming a quiet geometry across the ground, a pattern of devotion laid before the temple. You feel yourself part of that order, one body among many, each mat marking a place where someone will bow, someone will bleed, someone will speak the words of oath. The sun edges higher, its light beginning to touch the top tiers of the temple, though the courtyard remains in shadow. The mats gleam faintly in that half-light, the reeds shining where they have been polished smooth by many hands. Some still carry stains from past, use darker spots where knees pressed, faint marks where oil or blood once fell. You glance at them briefly, then let your eyes wander away. Such marks are reminders, but they are also ordinary. Nothing here is free of them. You kneel once to test your mat properly. The reeds creak beneath your knees, giving slightly but holding your weight. You lean forward, pressing your palms flat, feeling the texture rough against your skin. The smell rises faintly again, of dried waterweed and smoke, and you imagine how many others have knelt in the same posture. Palms pressed, heads bowed, breaths mingling with incense. The mat does not remember, but you do. You sit back on your heels, straighten, then stand again, leaving the mat in its place. Around you, the courtyard is nearly filled now, rows stretching toward the steps of the temple. Each mat lies waiting, quiet, unassuming, nothing more than reeds woven and bound. And yet together they form the ground upon which faith will be offered, bloodshed, oaths spoken. You take one slow breath and let it out, the air cool against your lips. The sound of grinding continues faintly behind the courtyard, mingling now with the distant sweep of brooms on the temple stairs. All of it blends into one rhythm: grind, sweep, unroll, press. The morning is not dramatic. It is steady, repeating, inevitable. You stand among the mats, hands resting loosely at your sides, and wait. You pause for a moment, standing in the courtyard among the scattered mats, when the sound reaches you. It is faint at first, like a pulse travelling through stone, low and steady. The drums, they come from across the water, somewhere beyond the temple you face, somewhere in another courtyard where other priests have already begun. The beat travels through the morning air, muffled by mist, yet clear enough to find you. You tilt your head slightly, listening. The sound rolls slowly, not quick, not insistent, but deliberate. A deep thud, then stillness, then another thud. The silence between beats is as thick as the sound itself. Each pause heavy, each pause reminding you that time moves whether you wish it or not. Your chest answers the rhythm. You do not mean it to, but your breath falls into line. Inhale on the beat, exhale between. You place a hand lightly against your sternum and feel the faint vibration there, the way a drumbeat travels even without touching skin. It is as though the lake itself carries it, amplifies it, and sets it down into your body. You look toward the water, though you see little. The mist still lies across it, though thinner now, and the light of the sun is beginning to stain its upper edge. Beyond that veil, you imagine the drummers. Men seated on low benches, hands striking stretched hides, their arms moving with the steadiness of years of practice. They are not playing for you alone, but the sound is yours all the same. The soldiers beside you hear it too. None speak, none move more than before, but their eyes shift slightly, their shoulders lift, their breath steadies in the same rhythm as yours. You all become part of the beat, even without choice. That is what drums do here. They remind you that your body belongs to something greater, that your steps fall where others' steps have already fallen. The sound grows stronger as more drums join, their beats overlapping, weaving into one another. Some strike deeper, some sharper, some lighter, but together they create a net of sound that spreads across the lake, across the courtyards, across the city itself. Even the mist seems to shiver under its weight, rising in faint curls that drift upward like smoke. You step closer to the edge of the courtyard, standing where the stones meet the beginning of the stairs. From here you can feel the sound more clearly in your feet. The stone vibrates faintly, almost imperceptibly, with each deep strike. You place both feet flat, toes spread, and let yourself feel it travel upward through your bone. It is not music in the way you think of song. It is not meant for beauty or for comfort. It is meant to be steady, unchanging, a measure against which the rest of the morning unfolds. The drums are the spine, and everything else bends around them. You close your eyes, letting them thrum against your ribs, filling your skull, shaking loose the last fragments of sleep that still linger in you. A bird darts overhead, startled by the sound, its wings flashing briefly in the grey light before vanishing. The moment passes quickly. The drums continue, unmoved, as if no small creature could ever matter against their persistence. And in truth, nothing interrupts them. Not bird, not mist, not silence. Your hunger stirs faintly again, knotted by the sound, tightened by the rhythm. But you do not mind. Hunger sharpens you, makes you aware of your body, reminds you of its limits. You imagine that the gods prefer it that way, that they would not want to hear oaths spoken with full stomachs and loose voices. They would want you tightened, focused, sharpened. One of the priests sweeping the temple steps pauses, his broom held upright, and tilts his head as if listening. The beat rolls on, and after a moment, he lowers his broom again and resumes. His sweeping matches the rhythm now. Stroke on the beat, pause, stroke again. The drums dictate even this, folding him into their order. You lean your weight forward slightly, palms pressed against your thighs, and let your breath fall deeper, slower, anchored to the beat. The morning has shifted. Before, there was mist and silence, scrape and sweep. Now, there is sound. A heartbeat, not your own, but one that makes your own beat more clearly. The drums continue. They will continue until the sun climbs higher, until the priests lift their hands, until the offerings are ready. You know this. You do not need to wonder when they will stop. For now, you let them carry you, one slow thud at a time, across the edge of morning into what follows. You step forward across the courtyard, leaving the mats behind for now, and your bare soles meet the first of the temple stones. They feel different from the paving you walked earlier. These are colder, harder, cut with sharper precision, fitted tighter together. The chill seeps directly into your skin, spreading upward into your calves, as if the stone wishes to remind you that you are small upon it, that you are temporary. You breathe out slowly, a long stream of air that fogs faintly in front of your face before fading. The surface has been worn smooth by countless feet, but you can still feel shallow grooves where water has traced paths during rains, where grains of sand have been carried away by the wind. Each step is a mingling of history, yours and not yours. You imagine the soldiers who knelt here before, the priests who bled here before, the offerings carried, the words spoken. The stones hold all of it, even if they say nothing back. The mist is thinning now, though it clings low along the base of the stairs. The air smells sharper here, touched with incense that has already begun burning somewhere higher above. The faint sweetness of copal resin mingles with damp stone, a mixture that settles heavily in your nostrils. You inhale again, letting it sting slightly, and feel your lungs expand in the cool morning air. A small sound follows your steps, a hollow tap with each placement of your heel. It echoes softly against the walls of the temple, repeating faintly, as if someone else follows just behind. You do not turn. The echo is company enough. The stairs rise ahead, wide and steady, climbing tier after tier until they vanish into the pale sky. From this angle, you cannot see the top, only the endless repetition of stone leading upward. Each step looks like the one before it, yet each one must be taken. The priests are still sweeping above, their white garments swaying faintly as they bend and straighten. You catch glimpses of them like figures moving within clouds. The soldiers beside you walk as well, their bodies straight, their faces set in the same calm blankness as yours. None rush, none drag behind. The pace is slow, measured, respectful. You feel their presence without needing to look, their movements echoing your own. Each footfall another tap against the stone. Your toes curl slightly against the cool surface as you step. The chill has numbed them, yet the sensation still travels upward, reminding you with every contact that you are awake, that you are here, that this is not dream but morning. You place your hand briefly against the wall beside the stair, fingers brushing carved stone. The grooves are shallow but distinct, forming shapes you know well. Feathered serpent, open jaws, curling tongue. The stone is rough against your fingertips, the edges dulled by time, but still sharp enough to remind you of the work that shaped them. You lower your hand again and continue upward. The drums in the distance keep their beat, rolling through the air like a tide. Each thud seems to press into the stairs themselves, as if the stone responds with faint vibration beneath your feet. You do not question it. Everything here answers the drums eventually. The morning light grows stronger as you climb. It touches the upper tiers first, gilding the edge of the temple with soft gold. The contrast against the shadowed lower steps is sharp, though it softens as you continue. By the time you reach the broad platform halfway, the light is beginning to strike your shoulders as well, warming your skin despite the chill still rising from the stone. A faint breeze brushes against your face, carrying more of the incense scent. Thicker now, sweeter. You breathe it in, letting it cling to your throat, making each swallow slower. The air feels heavy here, as though each breath requires more space within your chest. You exhale carefully, watching the thin curl of mist still lingering below you. You pause for a moment on the platform, standing still while others step past you. The stone beneath your feet holds both warmth from the rising sun and coolness from the night, a strange mixture that shifts depending on where you place your toes. You flex them once, then step forward again, toward the higher stairs, toward the place where the priests wait, where the rituals continue. The sound of sweeping is clearer now, the bristles rasping faintly against the stone above. The priests work without hurry, moving steadily from one side of the stair to the other. Their rhythm merges with the drums, merges with your breath, merges with the pulse of the city waking behind you. All of it folds together, and you walk within it. Another small sound, another body on the stone. The temple rises still higher. You climb. You step higher, the stone warming now beneath your skin, the sun beginning to lean across the upper terraces. The air feels less damp, touched with faint heat, and the mist that once clung low has lifted into shreds that drift lazily away. As you ascend, you notice small movements along the edge of the stairs, priests scattering flower petals with practiced care. They carry woven baskets tucked against their hips, the reeds bending slightly with the weight of blossoms. Yellow, red, and white petals spill through their fingers as they walk, dropped in loose handfuls across the stone. The flowers are not fresh in the way of gardens, but chosen for their endurance, their ability to hold colour even after hours in the sun. Each handful falls in a lazy drift, some clinging to damp patches, others caught by the faint wind and carried a few steps farther before settling. The smell reaches you slowly sweet, faintly pungent, a mixture of freshness and wilt. It mingles with incense already thick in the air, creating a layered scent that rests heavy on your tongue. You taste it even as you breathe, as though each petal pressed against the back of your throat. You watch the petals scatter, and the act feels unhurried, almost careless. Yet it is not careless at all. Each motion is part of a rhythm older than you, older than any soldier here. The flowers are not meant to stay neat. They are meant to lie where they fall, to create patterns not by design but by chance. The gods prefer chance. The gods prefer abundance without counting. One priest pauses at the edge of the stairs, holding a yellow marigold between his fingers. He presses the petals lightly between his thumb and forefinger before letting them fall, the bright pieces catching the sunlight as they drift downward. You follow their descent with your eyes, watching them land on the mat-lined courtyard below, settling like sparks against the woven reeds. For a moment, the courtyard looks alive, as though fire has spread across it, but with no heat, no destruction, only color. The soldiers near you step carefully so as not to crush the blossoms beneath their feet. Still, some petals stick to their toes, damp enough to cling, and leave faint traces behind with each step. You glance down at your own foot and notice a small red fragment caught against your skin. You leave it there. It feels fitting, as though the flower has chosen you, not the other way around. The sun brightens further, casting sharp shadows now along the temple walls. The petals gleam under it, brighter than they seemed before. They scatter in clusters, some thick, some sparse, forming uneven rivers of colour against the grey stone. You step through them quietly, the soft edges brushing your feet, reminding you that stone alone is not enough for ritual. There must always be softness, always fragrance, always something fragile. The priests continue their slow walk, baskets growing lighter, hands dusted with pollen that clings in yellow streaks. Their robes flutter slightly in the breeze, edges brushing against the petals they scatter. None speak, none look at one another. Each acts as if alone, though you know they move together, joined by the same pattern, the same task. A gust of wind lifts a cluster of petals suddenly, tossing them upward before setting them back down in another place entirely. The movement is quick but quiet, and when it is done, the petals look as though they were meant to be there. You exhale softly, amused by the thought that even the air itself joins in the scattering. You step again, feeling the stone shift beneath your weight, still cool in shaded places, warmer where the sunlight has reached. The petals beneath your toes crush slightly, leaving faint marks of color that will fade quickly, yet for a moment they are vivid. You look at the smear and think of it as no different from blood, except softer, sweeter, less final. The drums continue in the distance, steady and unyielding, though now softened by the hum of incense smoke and the faint rustle of blossoms. Each sound layers upon the other, creating a world that is full but never loud. You breathe in, out, in again, letting the rhythm fold over you. You glance upward to the next tier, where more priests wait with baskets still full. You know they will scatter until every stair has been covered, until the temple itself looks as though it grows flowers from stone. By then the oaths will begin. By then you will kneel among the petals, breathing their scent even as your own blood falls to join them. But for now, you simply walk, watching blossoms tumble, feeling them cling to your skin, letting the temple dress itself slowly in color. You smell the resin before you see the bowls, that distinctive sweetness that is not quite honey, not quite pine, and certainly not shy. It slips into the nose and settles behind the eyes, a soft pressure that says, yes, you are awake, and yes, this air belongs to the temple now. Priests move along the terrace with clay vessels cupped in both hands, their steps measured, their attention steady, as if each footfall were placed on the rim of a bell. The bowls are simple and dark from use, their rims smoked to a dull sheen. Charcoal embers glow within, a low red that hides and returns with each breath of wind. The priest nearest you pinches a small lump of copal from a woven pouch. The resin looks like pale gum opaque, a little cloudy, edges crumbled by many hands. He holds it above the heat for a heartbeat, then lets it fall. It lands with the softest tap, and the ember answers with a faint hiss. Smoke rises at once. It climbs as a pale column that cannot decide whether to be a thread or a veil. It curls, loosens, curls again, and the breeze takes what it wants. The scent deepens from sweet to thick, a resinous syrup turned to air. You breathe it in because there is nothing else to do. The gods like their air sweet, and you are not asked for your opinion. The smoke coats the mouth, thin at first, then heavier, as if it lines the throat with something soft and invisible. Another priest crouches to stir the embers with a sliver of bone. Ash shivers across the surface in grey scales, and the red beneath brightens, then settles again. He sprinkles more resin. The copal bead softens and then melts into a shining pool that bubbles once, twice, like a tiny pot that never quite boils. The smoke thickens. You watch it weave itself around the carved serpent heads, the open jaws briefly ringed in a dim halo before the air drifts and the ring dissolves. The bowls pass from hand to hand. Some stand on 3 short-legged pedestals set along the terrace. Others are carried in slow circles around the altar, clockwise, then back, then a pause at each corner. There is a pattern here you know without reciting. 4 directions, center, repeat, like walking the outline of a square until the square begins to feel round. The priests say nothing. They do not need to. The smoke is the speaking. A few grains of ash ride the air and land on your forearm, a soft dry tickle you do not brush away. One settles on a petal near your foot and darkens its color to a deeper red. as if the flower has decided to grow older in an instant. The drums below still hold their slow heart, but their edges feel padded now, muffled by the resin in your ears, as though the sound itself has been wrapped for safekeeping. You remember Copal as it looks before the bowl, hard tears picked from tree bark, sun stiffened and sticky at the same time, clinging to whoever is patient enough to pull it free. The men who gather it return with fingers dusted pale and fragrant, a scent that follows them even after washing. The resin resists and yields, like something that prefers not to leave the tree, but accepts that its fate is smoke. It is a useful fate. It turns the ordinary air into temple air. A priest sets a bowl near you. The clay is rough, pitted where sand once sat in the mold, warm against the stone. Heat rolls out in cautious breaths. You lean slightly forward and let it pass your face. The smoke softens whatever sharpness remains in you. The last clench of hunger, the last cold, the last tiny impatience that pretends to be important. You swallow. The taste lingers, resin drifting into salt, then into nothing, then returning again because it is not finished with you. Feathers tied to a thin rod flick gently over the bowl, guiding the smoke toward the altar. The gesture looks delicate, even fussy, but it is only practical. Smoke, like water, follows the encouragement it is given. It spills across carved glyphs, slips into shallow grooves, fills small hollows with temporary cloud. The stone seems to breathe. You allow yourself the same luxury and time your exhale to the priest's feathered sweep. Now and then a spark pops, quick and soft. A priest pinches the ember with wooden tongs and presses it down, and the sound dies. Resin drips along the rim and cools into thin amber beads that catch the light with a shy gleam. No one scrapes them away. They will be part of the bowl until the bowl breaks and the shards find another use, or no use at all. Everything keeps a trace of what it has carried. Even you. Your hair will smell of this until night. Your cloak already does. The scent will not ask permission. It will simply stay. A breeze slides along the terrace and quietly rearranges the world. Smoke leans, touches your cheek, then escapes. Shadows tilt. Petals lift and resettle with the softest papery sigh. You would call it almost nothing, except the almost is the point. Nothing here is grand by itself. The bowls are plain, the movements are small. The change is slow, so slow that when you look back you cannot say when the air became thick enough to see. But it did. It always does. That is what Copal is for, to make the unseen visible and then let it hide again. Another pinch of resin falls. The priest's fingers show pale dust in the creases, and he does not bother to brush it away. He inhales, exhales, inhales, the same as you, and the smoke threads in and out of both of you as if this breath were one long rope you share without comment. He moves on. The bowl remains. You lower your eyes and watch the ember, red and quiet, blink like a tired star. You stand in it, breathing in steady measure, until the line of bowls has reached the far side of the terrace and folded back toward the center. The scent is now the morning's spine as much as the drums are. Your tongue feels thick and gently numb along its edges, as if preparing itself for a sharper touch later. It is almost considerate, the way the smoke warns you without speaking. You acknowledge the courtesy with another slow breath. The priests begin a low note, not chant yet, only a shared hum that gives the smoke a shape to hold. The bowls answer with another thin ribbon. You think briefly that if air must be given to the gods, it might as well be given dressed well. You are still not asked for your opinion. You offer your breath anyway and watch it vanish into the incense, exactly as expected. The terrace settles around you, warm above the stone, cool beneath the skin, sweet in the mouth, and nobody is in a hurry to be anywhere else. You stand still for a while longer, letting the smoke settle into you, until the next act begins. A priest approaches with a shallow clay dish, and inside lies the dull red powder of ground ochre. It does not shine, it does not sparkle. It looks like ordinary dust, except the color is too deep to be mistaken for earth. You know this dust will be pressed against your skin, and it will stay there until sweat loosens it, or rain washes it away. The priest dips his fingers into the powder and rubs them together. The grains cling stubbornly to his skin, staining the creases of his fingertips. He steps toward you, his expression calm, and holds out his hand so you may take a share. You lift your palm without hesitation, and he pours a small mound into it, no more than a spoonful, but enough to change how you look to yourself and to the gods. The ochre feels dry and cool, lighter than you expect, as though it wishes to escape your hand. Some of it drifts away in the faint breeze, leaving red trails against the air. You pinch a bit between your fingers and smear it along your forearm. The powder clings, dull at first, then brighter as it spreads thin across the skin. It leaves streaks like faint fire, lines that follow the rise of your muscle, the bend of your elbow. You rub more against your other arm, the grains scraping faintly like sand before softening to a smooth coat. Your skin grows warmer as you work, the friction raising heat, the color settling deeper. Soon, both arms shine with the dull red of ochre, a second skin that marks you as ready. You press your palms together, rubbing until the powder stains both sides evenly, the creases of your hands filling with red that will stay there long after the day's work is done. Around you, other soldiers do the same. Some draw lines straight down their arms, others spread the dust in circles across their chests, others press handprints onto their shoulders, leaving marks that look like shadows. The courtyard grows brighter with this strange second skin, each body painted into something not entirely itself. You glance at them without staring, seeing how the powder clings to sweat, how it smears when touched, how it transforms ordinary flesh into something ritual. You lift your hand again and touch your face lightly. The powder streaks across your cheek, rough at first, then smoother as it blends. You drag your fingers down the length of your jaw, then across your chin, until your reflection, if you had one, would no longer show the same face that woke on the reed mat this morning. This is the point. The ochre is not meant to make you beautiful, nor to disguise you, but to mark that your body is no longer only yours. The scent of the powder is faint, almost metallic, sharp like wet stone rubbed too hard. It mixes with the incense already in your throat, creating a taste that is both dry and heavy. You swallow, and it lingers, a grainy edge at the back of your mouth. You lick your lips unconsciously and taste the same, as though the dust has already entered you. A soldier near you presses his fingers harder, leaving thick streaks that crack slightly as they dry. Another smears his entire chest, then pats the powder down with both palms, raising a faint red cloud around him. The particles drift in the sunlight, hanging for a moment before they fall onto the mats, onto the petals, onto the stone. Even the ground begins to glow faintly with the color. You rub your arms once more, pressing harder until the last of the powder in your palm has been used. The red remains vivid against your skin, uneven in some places, darker where sweat has already dampened you. You flex your fingers and watch the powder settle deeper into the lines, marks that will stay until the day's work is long past. The priest steps back, his bowl now lighter, and moves on to another group. His fingers are coated red to the wrist, his nails filled with dust, his cloak streaked where he brushed against himself. He does not mind. He will wear the same stains as you, though for different reasons. The drums in the distance do not pause, though their sound seems fainter now, muffled by the thick scent of incense and the taste of ochre. You exhale and watch a faint cloud rise from your own skin, drifting upward, joining the smoke, joining the breath of others. Everything blends here, resin, dust, sweat, petals, until the air itself becomes heavier, slower. You lower your arms to your sides, letting them hang red and warm. The powder dries quickly in the morning sun, leaving a thin crust that cracks when you move, though it does not fall away completely. It remains, stubborn, as though determined to remind you of the hours ahead. You accept the weight of it, the dryness of it, the smell of it. You are painted now, and painted you will remain until the ritual decides otherwise. You notice another priest stepping forward now, his hands carrying not a bowl of powder, but a small bundle wrapped in cloth. He kneels briefly, unties the cord, and reveals what lies inside. A cluster of long, slender needles, each carved from bone. They gleam faintly in the morning light, not with the shine of metal, but with the dull, pale smoothness of something shaped by patient scraping and polishing. The needles are not large, they are no bigger than the length of a finger, each one tapered to a sharp point at one end. Yet their size is deceptive. They carry a weight that is not physical, a weight that rests in the expectation of flesh yielding to them. You stand still as the priest lays them out in a shallow tray of wood, arranging them side by side with care, as if their order matters. Perhaps it does. Everything here usually does. The man beside you leans slightly forward to look, though his face remains expressionless. His lips part faintly, then close again, no sound escaping. You do the same, staring at the needles without blinking for a few breaths. They are plain, yet their plainness is exactly what draws you. No decorations, no carvings, no color. Only bone shaped into a purpose. You crouch slightly, curious, and reach out. Your fingers brush along one, the surface smooth, almost oily from being handled so many times. You lift it, careful, turning it between thumb and finger. The point glints as the light strikes it, and you test it lightly against your skin. The tip presses without piercing, but you feel its certainty. It will break the surface if asked. The sting is already there, hiding in the pores before contact. You set it back in place, resting it exactly where you found it. Your fingertip tingles, though no mark shows. You flex your hand and feel the faint ghost of that touch linger, as though your skin remembers better than your eyes. The priest watches silently, neither approving nor disapproving. He takes another needle and runs his thumb carefully along its length, feeling for any roughness. When he finds none, he sets it aside in a smaller bowl, the one that holds those ready for use. He repeats this with another, then another. Each one is tested, each one sorted. There is no hurry. The ritual will not wait for the unprepared. The soldiers nearby shift slightly, some rubbing more ochre into their arms, others standing still, eyes on the needles. You notice how each man's breath grows slower, steadier, as though watching the points reminds them of the patience they will need. No one reaches out again. Once is enough. The tray grows lighter as more needles are deemed ready. The priest wipes his fingers against his cloth, leaving faint streaks of bone dust. He examines the points one last time, holding them up toward the light, squinting slightly as if the morning sun itself must confirm their sharpness. Then he nods faintly to himself and lowers the tray once more. A breeze passes across the terrace, carrying the smell of resin and petals, mingled now with the dry sharpness of bone. You inhale, and the scent reminds you of crushed shells, of brittle reeds, of anything that once lived and now serves differently. The air feels sharper for it, as if even the breath could pierce. You glance downward at your hands, still streaked red with ochre. You flex your fingers again, then curl them loosely, imagining how they will feel when holding one of those needles. Your skin prickles faintly, not from the cold now, but from the nearness of what is to come. The drums do not change. They continue their steady beat, one low thud at a time, as if marking the exact patience required to prepare. The sound and the sight merge. Thud, needle, thud, point. You match your breathing to it, again, filling your chest slowly, letting it out even slower. The priest gathers the ready needles into a narrow bowl lined with cloth. He cradles it carefully, as though carrying water that must not spill. His steps are measured as he moves toward the altar. The rest remain in the tray, waiting to be checked, waiting to be shaped further if needed. You watch his figure grow smaller as he walks, his white cloak trailing against the stone, the bowl glowing faintly in the sun. You shift your weight onto your heels and straighten your back, the red dust crackling faintly as it dries further on your skin. The needles are ready now, or at least enough of them are. You know they will be passed to you soon, balanced in your palm, the point waiting for your tongue. Not yet, but soon. The air already carries the edge of that moment, like a blade waiting in silence. You close your eyes briefly, letting the thought rest without hurry. The day moves forward in steps, and you are only on this one. The needles gleam in your mind, pale, sharp, certain. You breathe again and open your eyes. The stone is still beneath your feet. The smoke still curls upward. The drums still beat. Nothing has changed, and yet everything has. You hear it first as a thin thread that does not belong to wind. It drifts over the terrace, a line stretched between bowls of smoke and flower-scattered steps, searching for a place to land. It finds one, and thickens. One note becomes two, then three, then a fabric of voices laid over the morning with the same patience used to set reeds beneath knees. You lift your head a little, not to see the singer's sight adds nothing, but because the sound has already found you. The chant is not loud. Loudness is for markets and boatmen. Here, voices stay close to the throat, shaped by breath that knows how long a morning can be. They choose a narrow path and walk it back and forth, refusing drama, refusing surprise. The gods are not taking requests. The gods prefer repetition. The low vibration fits neatly between drum beats, as if a slot was carved for it. The huhuetl keeps its unhurried heart. The wooden tepanadzli answers in hollow replies. And the voices, practical as water, thread through both and tie them together. Your ribs agree to the arrangement. They widen a little more on each inhale, then return without complaint. Priests step into view only because the steps exist. Their mouths open and close in the usual way, carrying words other mouths taught them long ago. The syllables slide together into a clean ribbon. Somewhere inside are lines about 4 directions in the center, about giving and returning, about breath leaving and coming back as smoke, as rain, as breath again. The meaning is not hidden. It is simply steady. The sound moves in layers. One holds a ground note like a round stone in the mouth. Another walks small steps above it, never far from home. A third line arrives late and slips behind, keeping the others from drifting. If there is a leader, you do not find him. Leadership here is a shape, not a person. The lines braid themselves until they feel like a single rope pulled through your bones. You taste the chant as much as you hear it. Incense and ochre carry it. Moisture from your mouth shapes it. Salt on your tongue records it. The air in your nose vibrates faintly, a thin reed touched by water. You swallow, and the vibration stays. The chanting nudges mats and petals and red dust while it travels. Smoke from the bowls billows slightly taller on the long vowels, then settles on the short ones. The carved serpents seem to listen, though stone always seems to listen if you stare long enough. Far away a child makes a sound and then hides, embarrassed to have entered the temple's morning without permission. Your shoulders loosen, not from comfort exactly, but from clarity. When many bodies share one sound, standing becomes easier. Your throat stays closed, your mouth still. Yet the chant seems to sing you anyway, as if your ribs are a hollow gourd among many. You consider helping and remember your help is already counted as silence. The melody, if that is the word, is a circle the size of your cupped hands. It turns and turns, laying a faint track on stone, and the feet of the priests follow it, sliding in soft arcs. Feathers sway, hems whisper, and nobody hurries. Even the sun steps to this pace, smearing its light across the terrace edge instead of leaping. Time behaves. Your eyes close, not for devotion so much as economy. Without sight, the sound gains weight. You hear the scrape of a sandal, the dull tap of a staff's end, the hush of a cloak being adjusted, the breath before a line and the exhale after. One voice falters for a heartbeat, then returns and finds its place without apology. The rope holds. Nothing dramatic happens. That is the success. 2 voices step downward together, like men descending a ladder, and stop where the drums can carry them. A higher thread glows above, tied between posts. Your chest copies the shapes without being asked. Wide on the lower tone, narrower on the higher, steady in the middle. Breath turns into simple geometry. A priest passes near enough that you see the fine strain at the corners of his mouth work, not suffering. Singing is a kind of carrying. He carries the line as he would a bowl, careful not to spill, lifting his chin to turn the corner of a step, setting it down again on the next stone. You admire competence the way a mason admires a straight wall. Beauty is fine, stability is better. The words settle into a pattern you can almost predict. Invoke, offer, recall, promise, north, west, south, east, center, water, fire, wind, earth, breath. Your mind wanders along the sequence like a hand over beads and returns to the present without needing to be called. The chant tugs you back each time the rope tightens. Your heart chooses a partnership. It follows the middle line now, the one that neither climbs nor falls but persists. The steadiness suits it. Your pulse evens. Your shoulders drop a fraction. If the tongue must meet a needle later, perhaps it should meet it under this arrangement. Calm air, straight spine, breath that knows the path out and the path in. The voices swell once, not a wave, just a slightly larger breath and return to size. A priest lifts his hand. The others do not need the signal, but signals are polite. The bowl near you answers with an extra curl of smoke. The petals at your toes quiver, then forget why. The sun lays a warm bar across your forearms. The ochre glows, as if remembering the clay it came from. Sweat pricks along the paint, but does not yet bead. Your jaws feel heavier, not from fear, simply from attention. They are no longer just part of your face, they are tools being prepared. The chant spends a few lines speaking in vowels to bone and muscle. When voices narrow, it is not an ending. The rope is pulled through a small ring and comes out as a thread. The final tone hangs over the terrace like fiber, caught on a hook. It trembles once, twice, then lies still. Silence returns without fanfare, smelling of copal and coloured like a watermark with what came before. You open your eyes. Nothing is different, and everything is steadier. The drums resume their plain duty. A priest looks at the sky and nods to no one. You breathe once more for the chant alone, and then you pay the rest of your attention forward. Morning has moved, and you have moved with it. You hear a shifting of feet on the upper terrace, slower than soldiers, softer than sweeping. The chanting has quieted now, replaced by the faint rustle of feathers and the occasional jingle of small gold discs brushing together. You look upward, and there they are, the high priests in procession, descending toward the wide platform where the rest of you wait. Their robes are long and white, though no cloth remains white for long in this city of smoke and stone. Streaks of ochre, faint smudges of ash, lines of sweat, none of it lessens the weight they carry. At their shoulders, tall fans of quetzal feathers bend in the breeze, greens and blues flashing when light finds them. Their headdresses sway as they step, feathers rippling like water stirred by a hand. You follow the movement with your eyes and find yourself almost lulled, as if your own breath wishes to match that slow swaying. Around their waists hang belts from which small discs of hammered gold catch the sun. The light wavers across their surfaces, not blinding, but bright enough to remind you that wealth also belongs to ritual. When they move, the discs shift and tap against each other with a faint metallic whisper. It is not a loud sound, but in the morning's quiet it becomes important. The gods do not need noise, they need persistence. Their steps are careful, deliberate. Each foot lands flat on the stone, each sandal sole pressing evenly before the next follows. Their pace is slow enough that you notice the details, how the feathers bend but never break, how the cloaks drag faintly at the edges, how the gold sways but always finds its way back. Nothing here is hurried, not because it cannot be, but because speed would suggest imperfection. The drums continue below, steady as ever, and the procession folds itself into that rhythm without forcing it. A priest's arm rises slightly, a fan of feathers trembling, and you could almost mistake it for a gesture to the drums themselves, a polite acknowledgement of their endless work. But the arm lowers again, and it is simply a step, one of many. You stand straight with the others, your ochre-stained arms at your sides, your feet planted firmly on the stone. You do not speak, do not move more than necessary. The air feels heavier as they approach, thick with incense, smoke and flower fragrance, yet sharpened by the glint of feathers and metal. It presses on your skin, and you let it. One priest carries a bowl of water, the surface trembling slightly with each step. Another holds a staff topped with a carved serpent head, its wooden fangs chipped by time but still sharp in form. A third carries nothing but his own presence, his hands clasped loosely in front of him, palms together, fingers relaxed. The weight he carries is invisible, yet perhaps heavier than the others. You watch their mouths. Some are closed in silence, others move faintly, lips forming words you cannot hear but can guess. Old lines, repeated so often they no longer feel like words but like breath given shape. You think briefly that even silence here must be structured, that even stillness follows its own ritual. The line of priests grows closer, their white cloaks brushing lightly against the steps, their feathers rising and falling like soft waves. The gold discs flash again, catching your eye, then vanishing as they sway. You blink slowly, not wanting to miss the small changes, but knowing they will repeat endlessly. When they pass near, you lower your eyes slightly, enough to show respect without losing your view entirely. You see the edge of a cloak sweep across the petals scattered on the stone. The petals cling briefly, then fall away, caught by the breeze left behind. It feels like a lesson, though you do not name it. The priests move on, their procession bending around the altar like a river finding its bed. They take their places without need for signal, each one stepping where countless others have stepped before. The feathers sway one final time before settling, the gold discs rest against cloth, the cloaks lie still. You breathe in, filling your chest with incense, ochre, and faint sweat, then exhale slowly. The air feels different now, heavier not with smoke, but with presence. The priests are here, and that changes the space. The morning has grown fuller. The temple is ready to listen. You stand a little straighter now, though not because anyone commands it. The procession has settled into its place, and the terrace feels narrower with their presence. Around you, soldiers gather shoulder to shoulder, each one red with ochre, each one marked in silence. You look left and right and see faces nearly identical in expression, eyes forward, lips closed, bodies still. The line forms slowly, but not uncertainly. Each man knows where to stand, knows which shoulder will brush another's, knows how far from the altar he must place his feet. The mats lie waiting, and soldiers step onto them in practiced order. The reeds creak faintly under the weight, the sound repeating down the row like a soft ripple. You find your mat where you left it earlier, the surface slightly bent at the corners from the morning breeze. You step onto it carefully, your toes pressing the woven ridges flat again. The red on your arms flakes slightly as you move, leaving faint dust on the mat's pale reeds. You kneel, then rise again, testing the space. It holds. You remain standing, eyes fixed ahead. The man beside you adjusts his cloak once, pulling it tighter across his chest. The one on your other side clears his throat softly, then stills. Beyond them, more soldiers arrive, filling the row, then the next, then the next. The courtyard that once felt wide and open now feels dense. Every mat taken, every space occupied by a body waiting. The air grows warmer with so many close together, sweat mingling with incense until the scents blur. No one speaks. Silence is not commanded, it is assumed. Voices here would fall like stones into calm water, disturbing ripples the gods have no patience for. So you say nothing, and nothing is said to you. Your shoulders brush faintly against those on either side. Not hard, not pressing, only enough to remind you that you are part of something larger. You shift your weight slightly until balance settles. Then you stop moving, everyone stops moving, stillness becomes the shape you all agree to wear. Ahead, the priests remain in place, their feathers swaying gently in the breeze. Behind them the altar waits, its surface already dusted with petals, its bowls sending up steady streams of smoke. The air between you and it feels thick, stretched, taut like the skin of a drum. Your breath grows quieter in your ears. You lower your gaze to the stone just beyond your mat, tracing the cracks with your eyes, following them until they vanish into shadow. You see petals lying there too, their bright colours dulled by ash, their edges curling as they dry. You watch one tremble, though no wind touches it. The drums continue their slow thud. Each strike arrives heavy, then fades, leaving silence long enough for you to hear your own pulse. You wonder if others hear theirs too, If the row of men beside you all carry the same sound in their ribs? If so, then this silence is not empty. It is crowded with heartbeats you cannot separate. The ochre on your arms feels tighter now, the thin crust stiffened by sweat. When you flex your fingers, the red cracks slightly, but the color remains. It binds you as surely as the mat beneath your knees, as surely as the silence around you. The line grows complete, every mat filled, every soldier in place, every back straight. The air thickens with the simple fact of so many bodies choosing stillness at once. You let your shoulders sink into that stillness, your breath slowing, until you are unsure whether you lead or follow. It does not matter. The priests raise their arms slightly, not in grand gesture, but in acknowledgement, as if to say, "We see you, and you see us, and that is enough." Their feathers shift in the light, gold discs tremble faintly, and then they lower their arms again. You do not move, you do not need to, your place has been chosen, your line drawn, shoulder to shoulder, mat to mat, silence to silence. The temple holds you all, and the morning holds the temple. You have stood long enough that stillness begins to feel like movement turned inside out. A hand motion from the front, barely more than a breath of fingers, ripples the line, and each row inches forward, mat by mat. When it is your turn, you step off the reeds and onto the bare stone that leads to the idol's base, the air cooler here, as if the shade belongs to the god the way warmth belongs to the sun. You do not rush. Nobody ever impresses stone by arriving early. The base rises from the terrace like a dark shore, a block of carved volcanic rock that pretends to be simple until an eye bothers to notice. The surface is not smooth. It is a conversation of shallow pits and softened ridges, edges worked by hands that have long turned to dust, then gentled by countless palms after. The carving shows coils and jaws and eyes that do not blink, curves cut into a hardness that once cooled as fire's last words. You take one more breath and lift your hand. Your palm meets the stone with a hush, a soft clap of skin to rock that does not echo, does not wish to. The first thing you know is temperature. It is cold in the way the lake is cold before noon, not unfriendly, just uninterested in your opinion. The second thing you know is texture. The tiny pits take your skin lightly, as if tasting it. The ridges place themselves under your fingers the way a road finds the feet that walk it. You let your weight settle forward until your arm straightens and your shoulder eases. The ochre on your hand smudges faintly, leaving a blush of red on the black-grey face of the carving. You imagine the stone will keep it for an hour, then lose it to other hands, other breezes, other days. Nothing here is meant to be permanent except the expectation that someone will return. The rock manages that commitment with ease. You keep your fingers quiet, not tracing, not stroking, just resting. A warmth begins, your warmth gathered slowly back into your palm. The stone does not give heat, it simply allows yours to remain for a moment, as if admitting that you exist. It is a small courtesy from a large thing. You accept it without gratitude or complaint, because neither seems necessary. Tiny scratches announce themselves under your thumb, a constellation of shallow nicks. Perhaps a tool slipped here once, perhaps a pebble dragged under some earlier hand. Your skin learns the shape more quickly than your eyes can. Skin is good at that. A thin film of incense settles as you breathe, and for a breath or two you smell the rock as well as the resin. A faint metallic damp, like rain that never quite fell. You straighten your fingers wider, letting the span of your hand find new ground. A carved line crosses beneath your ring finger, a curve you think belongs to a feather or a flame. It has rounded with time, but the intention remains. Someone meant this line. Someone leaned over the stone and carved motion into stillness, then stepped back and let centuries do the polishing. You add a single silent polish of your own and leave no mark worth mentioning. That is fine. Marks are for those who need to be reminded they were here. The stone is already convinced. The drums do not pause while you touch. They move through your bones and through the rock at the same time, and the place where your palm meets the base becomes a thin door between the two. The beat seems to come into you through the stone and out of you through your lungs, or perhaps the other way around. You stop deciding which direction anything travels. It saves energy. You let your other hand rise and join the first. Fingers spread, thumbs apart, a small animal pressing its whole body against a larger one to learn its breath. The coolness is deeper with both palms down, as if the stone finally remembers it is not required to pretend to be warm for you. Your jaw slackens slightly. The back of your neck loosens. Nobody would see the difference unless their job was to see small differences. The gods do not itemize. Along the lower edge of the base, petals have drifted and lodged in tiny ledges, their colors dimmer here in the shade. A few are pinched flat where knees have brushed them. A few hold their curve like boats refusing to sink. Ash freckles the stone in pale dots, and once or twice your fingertips feel the grit of it, dry as old paper. You do not brush it away. The altar is not a table to be wiped for guests. It is already busy being itself. Somewhere behind you a soldier clears his throat, a sound quickly swallowed by drums and air. Another shifts his feet. A priest's cloak whispers as he turns. None of it reaches your hand. Touch is greedy. It prefers its own company. You breathe through your nose and let your tongue rest heavy in your mouth, a quiet rehearsal for what it will be asked to do. The stone absorbs whatever intention you think you are hiding and responds by being stone. You press a little more, the way a question leans toward an answer. The surface refuses to move and so becomes the answer. Your shoulders lower by a half, fingers breadth. The slight tremor in your forearms settles. The line of your spine agrees to be a line. You realize your eyes have fallen half closed and leave them that way. Sight is an optional luxury when you are speaking to rock. A memory appears without warning. Childhood games near a wall that never fell. Hands slapping stone between races. Laughing because stone made your palms ring. This stone does not ring. It hums without sound. A weight, so even you forget to measure it. The memory leaves as lightly as it came. The base remains. Your breath catches a fragment of resin sweetness, then slow salt, then nothing. The ochre at the heel of your hand has softened where heat gathers. When you lift one palm a hair's breadth, the print left behind is darker than before. The mark will mean nothing to anyone in an hour. It means nothing to the stone now. But to your small piece of mourning, it is a line on a page that tells you which paragraph you have reached. Someone at the edge of your hearing says a word you do not catch. Another answers with the same word, or maybe only with breath. The line behind you waits its turn, as if waiting were the point, which it is. You consider if the base notices the order of arrivals. You decide the base has the good sense not to keep lists. You let your left hand fall away first. The skin protests the parting, not with pain but with a light surprise, like lifting from cool mud. Your right follows, slower. Air slides between palm and rock and pretends to be temperature again. Your hands hover for a moment, ridiculous birds deciding if they prefer perches to flight. They drop to your sides, heavy and red. The stone looks the same. Of course it does. You step back the smallest amount you can without pretending you are still touching. Your feet find their place on the terrace. The drums fold themselves back into your chest. A braid of incense rises past your cheek and forgets you immediately. You glance once at the carved line your finger learned and fail to find it with your eyes. Skin kept that privilege for itself. All that is left to do is nothing. You do it well. You stand, you breathe. You let the cool of stone remain on your palms until it recedes on its own schedule. The base continues its unremarkable eternity, and you return to being a body among bodies, carrying a touch that no one will notice, and that does not need to be noticed. The god has been greeted. The rock has been respected. The morning, predictably, refuses to be surprised. You stand a while longer, palms still tingling faintly where stone pressed them, until the quiet ache in your stomach pulls your attention back. It is not sharp, not urgent, but steady, like a rope tied somewhere inside you and tugged at regular intervals. You know this feeling well. It arrives every morning at this hour, and you let it arrive again, because it does not ask for permission. The smell of maize still clings faintly to the air from earlier, mingling with the stronger weight of incense. It sharpens the edge of your hunger, reminding you of the porridge that waits somewhere else, not here. You imagine the paste softening over heat, the steam lifting from the pot, the sweet heaviness of it on your tongue. The thought comes easily, but you do not linger on it. Thoughts of food are meant to pass through you here, not settle. Around you, other soldiers shift slightly in place. You notice it in the way shoulders lift with slower breaths, in the way jaws clench and release. They are hungry too, though none will speak of it. Hunger belongs to the ritual as much as incense does. To offer yourself full would be careless, even disrespectful. The gods are not interested in contentment. They prefer bodies that know lack. Your belly tightens again, a small knot that contracts and then loosens. You place a hand lightly against it, not to soothe, but to remind yourself that the sensation is real and that it belongs. The ochre on your fingers leaves a faint print across your cloth, a red smear that will fade with sweat. You leave it there, unbothered. The drums continue, each beat sinking into your frame. The sound pulls attention away from the ache, though never fully. Hunger does not disappear. It only quiets itself when sound asks it to. You breathe with the rhythm, drawing in air that tastes of resin and dust, letting out air that carries the faint whisper of your stomach. The two merge without conflict. You glance sideways briefly, not enough to break your stillness, but enough to see. The man beside you shifts weight from one leg to the other, slow, deliberate, as though even that small movement must be ritual. His face shows nothing. Only his body admits what his mouth will not. You mirror him quietly, letting your own weight slide to the other side, feeling the stretch along your thigh, the ease in your hips. The mat beneath your feet creaks faintly, like a reed sighing. Petals rest along the stone still, some already wilting, their scent fading. You stare at one curled edge for a few breaths, letting its small decay remind you of your own emptiness. It is easier to accept hunger when you see that everything here empties itself eventually. Flowers of their color, bowls of their smoke, bodies of their blood. You are not special in this. The priests continue their slow movements near the altar. One adjusts a bowl, tilting it slightly so the smoke rises in a straighter column. Another kneels to spread fresh petals, their brightness still startling compared to the duller ones scattered earlier. They do not glance at you, though they know you watch. Their work is not for you. Your hunger is not their concern. Both exist side by side without acknowledgement. Your stomach tightens once more, sharper now, then loosens again. You breathe through it, letting your chest expand until the sensation feels smaller, then releasing it on the next drumbeat. You remind yourself that this ache is not an enemy. It is a companion to the ritual, a necessary presence that teaches patience. The gods have no interest in men who cannot carry their own emptiness for a few hours. The air grows warmer as the sun climbs, pressing down on your shoulders, heating the ochre on your arms until it begins to flake. Sweat beads along your temple, slides down your cheek, tastes faintly of salt when it reaches your lips. The salt mixes with the memory of maize still lingering in the air, and for a moment it is almost enough. Not food, not fullness, but a taste that convinces the mouth to wait. You rest your hands loosely at your sides, the muscles of your belly still pulling and releasing. You do not fight it. You let the hunger stay the way you let the incense stay, the way you let the drums stay. Each has its place, each will do its work in time. The gods do not rush, and neither do you. You stand with your emptiness intact, your breath steady, your gaze fixed on the altar. Hunger holds you still, and stillness holds you back. The day continues without concern for what knots your stomach. That is how mornings in the temple are meant to be. The priests lift their hands in a gesture so slight that you almost miss it. A soft ripple moves down the rows, and each man lowers himself onto his mat. You bend your knees slowly, letting the weight of your body sink. The reeds creak under you, bending but not breaking, their dry smell rising faintly into your nose as your knees press them closer to the stone. You lean forward, careful, until your forehead meets the mat. The contact is gentle, not forced. The texture is rough, a pattern of woven lines pressing into your skin. It is not uncomfortable, but it reminds you that you are pressing yourself onto something made by hands, onto reeds that once stood in the lake, cut and dried to serve this exact moment. The world tilts slightly in this posture. You no longer see the altar or the feathers of the priests. Your eyes face only the mat, the stone beneath it, and the faint shadow of your own breath fogging against the fibers. You hear the drums still, though their sound now feels heavier, pressing down from above rather than beating through your chest. The incense hangs closer too, drifting into the hollow space where your head bows. Around you, the silence deepens. The shuffling of feet has stopped. The rustle of cloth has stilled. Only the sound of breathing remains. Hundreds of breaths falling into the same rhythm, the same depth, the same surrender. You listen to the man on your left inhale, then exhale, a sound so soft it could be mistaken for wind. You match it without trying, your body finding the same pace, the same length of breath. Your arms rest along the mat, palms flat, fingers spread. The ochre smears faintly into the reeds, leaving red marks that will remain even after you rise. You know they will darken as sweat mixes with them, as time presses them deeper into the weave. You do not mind. The mat is not yours to keep. It is only yours to mark. The smell of dried reeds is stronger here, a grassy sweetness tinged with dust. It blends with the heavier weight of copal and the faint salt of sweat. The scents fold together until you cannot tell one from the other. All of it becomes the air you breathe, and you breathe it because that is what your body does when it lies bowed. Your forehead warms where it touches the mat. At first it feels cool, but as seconds pass, the heat of your skin seeps into it, creating a circle of warmth that spreads outward. You imagine the mat absorbing it, holding it for a time, then releasing it slowly back into the air after you are gone. Even this small transfer feels part of the offering. The pressure of kneeling builds in your knees, a dull ache that arrives without fanfare. It will stay as long as you stay. You shift slightly, not enough to disturb the rhythm, only enough to let blood move again. The ache does not vanish, it only changes shape. You accept it. The gods are not asking you to be comfortable. The drums remain steady. Their sound seeps into the mat, into the stone, into your bones. Each beat feels like a reminder. You are still here, you are still breathing, you are still part of the line. You let the sound count for you, marking moments that your own mind does not need to measure. Your eyes close, though they were already staring at nothing. Darkness behind lids is no different from darkness against reed. The quiet hum of your breath grows louder to you, filling the small space between mat and face. You taste the dryness of ochre on your lips, the faint bitterness of resin at the back of your throat. The flavors are simple, steady, ordinary. They do not distract. A priest's voice rises briefly, low and even, then falls back into silence. The words are not for you, not in this posture. You remain still, forehead pressed, knees aching, arms heavy against the mat. The air above you shifts slightly as petals drift down, brushing your back before settling on the ground. You feel the faint tickle but do not move. It belongs there now. Your body grows heavier as time passes, weight pressing downward, spine curving, muscles softening. You do not resist it. Kneeling is a kind of falling slowly, and you allow yourself to fall until the mat holds you entirely. There is no need to lift your head, no need to glance around. The stillness is the ritual now, and you are part of it, no different from the others lined in rows, bowed and waiting. A faint shuffle ahead, the sound of cloth against stone, tells you the next part has begun. You do not rise yet, but you listen. The priests move quietly among the rows, carrying shallow bowls filled with water salted until it tastes like the lake. When one stops near you, you lift your head slightly and open your eyes. The world seems brighter after the darkness of the mat, though little has changed. A clay bowl appears before you, its rim darkened by use, its surface damp with condensation. The priest tilts it toward you with both hands, and you lean forward. The water ripples faintly as your breath touches it, as though already responding to you. You cup your hands and dip them carefully, the coolness of the liquid shocking against your warm skin. You lift the water to your mouth and sip. The taste is sharp, unmistakable salt and mineral, metallic like the tang of blood, yet cleaner, thinner. It spreads quickly across your tongue, filling your mouth with its sting. You hold it for a moment, letting the sensations soak in, then swallow slowly. The salt clings to your throat, lingering even after the liquid is gone. You take another sip, smaller this time. The water is not meant to quench, it is meant to remind. You feel it slide down, leaving your mouth drier than before, your tongue heavy and coated. You lick your lips instinctively, but the salt only spreads further. You glance at the priest briefly. His expression remains calm, unbothered, as though salt is not a taste, but a truth. The man beside you sips as well, his jaw moving with the same slow patience, his breath slightly louder afterward. Together you lower your heads once more, hands pressed against the mats, bodies bowed. The salt remains. That is its purpose. The smell of incense is stronger now, but the water has sharpened your senses. You taste the resin more clearly, bitter and sweet at once, drifting into the back of your throat with each inhale. Your stomach knots again, the salt stirring it awake, though you let it knot and unknit without protest. Hunger is louder now, but you keep it company quietly. The bowl passes to another. The priest moves on, the sound of his steps fading as he carries the same sharp taste to the next row. You lower your hands to the mat again. They feel damp from the water, cool against the reeds, leaving darker prints where moisture seeps into the fibers. The ochre smears further, mixing with the wetness into a faint paste that clings under your nails. You rub your thumb against your finger and feel the grit of it, dry and wet at once. You close your eyes again, letting the salt remain on your tongue. The taste is not pleasant, but it is steady, insistent, impossible to ignore. It makes your mouth ache for sweetness, for coolness, for maize, but none will come yet. The ache is the point. The gods will not hear voices dulled by comfort. They will hear only those roughened by salt, sharpened by emptiness. The drums continue their beat, slow and thick, as if sinking into the salted water itself. The chant does not rise now, only the steady sound of breathing, of swallowing, of silence pressing down again. You press your forehead once more against the mat, the reeds rough, your skin damp, your mouth dry and burning. The sensation is simple. The sensation is enough. The quiet of bowed heads stretches on until a new sound joins the morning. A thin crack, sharp but small, like dry wood splitting under pressure. You lift your face just enough to see, and there he is, the first priest, standing near the altar, lifting a bone needle to his own ear. He does not hesitate. He presses the point against the lobe, pushes, and the flesh yields with a suddenness that makes no announcement except the faint snap of skin parting. The drop of blood that follows is not large. It slides slowly down, round and dark, tracing the curve of his jaw before falling onto his cloak. The fabric absorbs it without ceremony, darkening slightly, then holding still. His expression does not change. His eyes remain calm, his mouth closed, his shoulders relaxed. It is as though he has pressed nothing more than a reed against his ear. You breathe in slowly, letting the incense sting your throat again, letting the salt still coat your tongue. You watch the priest withdraw the needle and hold it up briefly. The tip gleams red now, not with paint or pigment, but with what bodies always hold. He sets it aside and takes another, pressing it through the cartilage higher above. The skin resists a little more, but the point finds its way. Another small drop falls. Another line stains his cloak. Still, his face remains unchanged. The other priests do the same, one after another, each choosing ear or lip or arm. Their movements are calm, steady, never hurried. Each press of bone is deliberate, each drop of blood received without comment. The silence around them makes the small sounds sharper, the faint hiss of breath, the soft pat of a drop hitting cloth, the creak of a cloak shifting. You feel your own ears grow warm in response, as if remembering they are flesh too, as if imagining the point before it arrives. Your tongue presses against your teeth without you meaning it to, already preparing for what will come later. The body rehearses on its own, whether asked or not. The soldiers around you do not flinch. Their gazes remain steady, though you see a few throats move as men swallow. One man beside you blinks more slowly, his lashes heavy, as if the sight asks for more patience than he has yet gathered. Another breathes deeper, chest rising and falling like the drumbeat itself. All remain still. Stillness is part of the oath, long before the bone touches flesh. The priest's needles grow stained one by one. Some hold them upright afterward, showing the red tips briefly before placing them into small bowls lined with bark paper. Others wipe them against their skin, leaving streaks that mingle with ochre and ash. The smoke curls higher as if to carry the sight upward, though perhaps it only follows the breeze. You notice how the drops do not spread far. They remain small, controlled, almost neat. The ritual is not about spilling abundance. It is about proving control over what is most personal. Each priest proves it quietly, without flourish. The blood falls where it falls, and then it is done. Your stomach tightens again, not from hunger this time, but from the quiet weight of anticipation. You imagine the cool sharpness against your own skin, the sudden give, the warmth that follows. You wonder if your face will remain steady like theirs, or if your breath will catch for an instant. You do not wonder long. Wonder is wasted here. The moment will arrive when it is meant to. One priest sets his needle aside and dips his fingers into the salt water bowl. He touches the wetness to the fresh wound, and the blood thins into pink before drying again. His jaw does not clench, though yours does in sympathy. Salt finds every cut. Salt insists on being known. You lower your forehead back to the mat, letting the reed texture press into your skin once more. The drums continue, unbothered by bone or blood. The incense continues, filling your nose, coating your throat. The salt still lies heavy on your tongue, and above you the priests continue calmly, piercing their own flesh before turning their attention toward yours. The bowl circles closer, carried with the same careful hands that carried smoke and salt. When it reaches you, the priest tilts it so you may see the small forest of points resting on folded bark paper. The needles are pale as shells, slender as thorns, each one a tidy measure of intention. You lift your hand, not to snatch, not to hesitate, simply to choose. Your fingers hover for a breath over the cluster. Bone does not invite, it merely allows. You select one from the edge, the way you would pluck a reed from a bundle to avoid disturbing the rest. It slides free without protest, leaving a small gap that looks larger than it is. You balance the needle between thumb and first finger, resting it across the second. It weighs almost nothing. The point shows the quiet shine of polished bone. The shaft keeps faint lengthwise lines, a memory of scraping that gives your grip a path. The morning's cool lingers in it until your skin warms it. You slow your breath so the needle will not tremble. In on one drumbeat, out on the next silence. Your hand steadies. Nothing dramatic happens, which is the point. You study the tip from a finger's width away. The edge is not jagged. It is simply sure. You test against the side of your other hand, pressing just enough to learn. The skin dents, it does not break. The body gives warning before it yields, a polite custom you plan to honor. Salt gathers more saliva in your mouth, and you swallow once to clear the path. The tongue sits heavy, a quiet animal waiting to be led. It knows its part. Around you, other men hold the same pale length in nearly the same way. A few pinch higher up the shaft. A few anchor with a nail. One rests the far end against his ring finger. All of you have learned your own grips, as if this were a craft, the craft of offering a small pain and calling it a promise. Incense drifts across your hand and curls around the point as if to soften it. The perfume is kind, the bone is immune. You permit the theatre. You steady your wrist against your ribs. The bone lies like a short intention pointing away from you. You turn the point forward, then down, then forward again, rehearsing the small arc it will take from air to flesh. The movement is no larger than the nod you give a passerby. The shaft settles where the faint grooves want it to sit. It is pleasant when objects know how to be held. For a breath, you see the whole path as a simple sequence. Point, breath, tongue, a drop, paper. The morning declines to skip ahead. A feather brushes the edge of your vision and reminds you there are men with larger rolls nearby. You have the smaller one, the repeatable one that builds a wall out of single stones. You prefer the laying. Your mouth tastes of salt and resin and a hint of red dust. You roll your shoulders back the smallest distance your cloak allows and feel the skin across your throat grow smooth. The jaw unlocks. The tongue lies quiet behind the teeth. There will be a time to lift it. That time is not now. Now is for holding. You lower your gaze to the bark paper strips on the shallow tray near the altar. They wait without fidgeting, fibers pale and thirsty. One point, one tongue, one drop, one strip, one breath. If the gods like arithmetic, and this temple suggests they do, you will give them clean sums. The line moves a small step. Stone accepts another weight. The mat agrees to be background. Light is generous to one arm and stingy to the other. You hold the needle through all of it, a thin white decision balanced on the pads of your fingers. When the priest's shadow reaches your feet, you do not change anything. Shadows come and go. The point remains. When his hand makes the smallest turn to indicate readiness, you let your breath finish its exhale and do not rush its return. You have been holding tools since childhood. This is only another. You let the point hover near your lips and feel your breath slide past it. Warm air rises. The needle ignores it. You lower it again and count 3 more breaths, because counting calms hands even when hands pretend not to need calming. The drums do the arithmetic for you anyway, dotting time with patient knocks. The priest who offered the bowl pauses 2 paces away, watching the line without staring at anyone. His fingers are dusted pale where resin and bone met them. He lifts his own needle to the light, checks the edge with the soft of his thumb, then returns to stillness. A petal clings to the sweat at your knuckle, a bright red comma that refuses to fall. You do not brush it away. It is perfectly able to mind its own timing. The ochre on your hand cracks where the knuckle bends, opening thin islands of skin the color of clay watered once and left to dry. You think briefly of the maker, scraping, rinsing, scraping again, polishing with sand, with fiber, with patience, testing the tip against leather until leather disagreed. You do not know his name. Names matter in marketplaces. Here, only steadiness does. You honor him by holding well. You tilt the point downward and align it with nothing, because nothing is what you need until the priest speaks. Your wrist stays soft. Your elbow stays close. Your breath goes where it is told. If there is fear, it has chosen to behave. If there is pride, it has been asked to wait outside. What remains is a small, usable calm. You are ready in the way a stone step is ready, by existing in the right place and not moving. The needle waits in your hand, light as a thought you have decided to keep. If anyone were to ask what you are doing, the answer would be unimpressive. You are holding a small piece of bone. Fortunately, nobody asks. The morning dislikes explanations. It prefers competence. You give it that, and only that. The moment hangs, stretched thin between breath and bone. You feel your chest rise once, then settle. The needle rests steady in your hand, a pale splinter waiting. You lower your gaze to the stone in front of you, not because it needs attention, but because it steadies your eyes. The priest's voice is low, a murmur barely louder than smoke. It is not command, not encouragement, only reminder. The time has arrived. You part your lips slowly, the way you would to taste rain. The air is heavy with salt, resin, dust, and it fills your mouth even before the needle does. Your tongue lifts itself, not dramatically, not quickly, but with the same patience you have carried all morning. It feels large, swollen already by anticipation, as if it knows what is coming and wishes to meet it halfway. The needle waits at the edge of your vision. You bring it forward until the point rests against the surface of your tongue. The touch is smaller than you imagined, a cool dot of pressure, lighter than a grain of grit. For a breath, you simply hold it there, letting flesh and bone acknowledge one another. You inhale once more, filling your lungs. The drumbeat follows. As you exhale, you let your hand move the smallest distance, pressing the point inward. At first, your tongue resists, soft muscles stiffening against intrusion. Then, as with all things pressed long enough, it yields. The point slips through, sharp and clean, a sudden sting that is both thinner and deeper than any cut on skin. Your breath hitches, but you hold it, refusing to break the rhythm. The ache blooms outward, a spreading fire contained inside soft flesh. Your eyes water faintly, though you do not close them. The body protests, but you remind it that silence is also part of the oath. The needle stands steady now, tip gleaming faintly red where it emerges. A drop gathers quickly, thick and metallic, and you taste it before it falls. The salt water in your mouth earlier prepared you, but this taste is heavier, warmer, unmistakably alive. It coats the back of your throat, demanding to be noticed. You swallow once, slow, letting it slide down with no effort to disguise. Your hand lowers, leaving the needle behind. It stays, balanced by the flesh that holds it, trembling only slightly with the beat of your pulse. The sting remains sharp, but steadier now, folding itself into the rhythm of your breathing. You let your tongue rest heavy again, pierced but quiet, its weight familiar in a new way. Around you, the others follow. A faint chorus of gasps and low breaths mingles with the steady drum. No one cries out, no one breaks the silence, but the sound of bodies meeting bone is clear. Small snaps, soft hisses of breath, the wet slide of needles finding place. The air grows thicker, not with incense alone, but with the shared iron scent of blood rising. Your shoulders relax a fraction, though the ache continues. Pain, like hunger, belongs here. It does not need to be fought. It needs only to be carried. You carry it as you have carried stillness, as you have carried silence, as you will carry word. You glance downward briefly and see the bark paper strips waiting on the tray. They seem brighter now, pale against the dark stone, as if eager for what you will give them. A drop of blood clings still to the underside of your tongue, heavy, threatening to fall. You hold steady, knowing its place will be chosen soon enough. The priests move among the rows, their cloaks brushing stone, their hands ready with bowls of paper, bowls of water, bowls of ash. They do not hurry, they do not need to. The morning has opened fully now, and it will not close until all has been given. You draw another breath, slower this time, letting air pass around the sharp ache in your mouth. It tastes of resin, salt, and the steady iron of yourself. You hold it in, then release it carefully, feeling the faint tremor in your lips as blood thickens there. The drum beats again. You let your heart answer, you let the ache stay, you let the ritual carry you, pierced and silent, into the next part. The drop comes sooner than you expect. It gathers on the underside of your tongue, heavy and round, then slides free. You feel its absence before you see its fall. A warm trace lingers, a small hollow where weight once rested. You lower your head slightly, mouth open, and let the blood spill where it wishes. The bark paper strip waits, pale and thirsty. The drop lands with a soft pat, dark against light, soaking quickly into the fibers. The paper does not resist. It drinks as though it has always been waiting for this. You watch it spread, edges feathering outward, a red bloom seeping into plant veins. The strip shivers faintly as more drops follow, laid carefully by gravity and patience. Your tongue aches, a deep throb that pulses with every beat of the drum. Each pulse pushes another bead forward, slow but certain. You do not force it, you do not swallow it. You simply tilt your head and let it fall. The paper accepts each offering without judgment, without noise. The priest nearby leans forward with a steady hand, shifting the strips when one grows dark enough. A fresh sheet replaces it, pale again, ready again. You lower your head further, lips parted, and give it what it requests. The resin smoke curls between you and the tray, as though reminding you that breath belongs to the gods as much as blood does. The taste does not leave your mouth. Metallic, salt, thick it coats your teeth, your throat, your lips. You let it. To spit would be foolish. To complain, worse. You swallow when you must, slow and deliberate. The warmth sliding downward like a secret that is not yours to keep. The ochre on your hands has cracked more, flakes sticking faintly where sweat gathers at your wrists. You glance at them briefly, red on red, dry powder against wet blood, and you cannot tell which stain is which anymore. The gods will not ask you to separate them. Around you, Soldiers tilt forward in the same way. Heads bow, tongues ache, strips darken. The sound of blood falling is faint, but when hundreds offer at once, it becomes a texture in the air. Pat, 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 each drop disappearing into paper like rain into dry ground. You breathe in the scent, sharper now, mingling with incense until the two blur together into something both sweet and iron. The priest collects the darker sheets, laying them carefully into a clay bowl. They cling to one another, wet fibers sticking, forming a layered red bundle. He adds more, slow and precise, until the bowl is half full. Then he replaces it with another, setting down fresh strips before you. You lower your head again, another drop falls, another bloom spreads, the paper drinks again. Your vision narrows as you watch the spreading stains. They form shapes without meaning, circles, lines, smears, edges. You stare at one until it looks like a serpent coil, then blink, and it becomes nothing more than liquid and fiber again. The mind makes patterns because it dislikes waste. The gods see only that it was given. Your jaw grows heavy, muscles tired from holding still. The ache deepens into something steadier, a throb that no longer asks for attention but insists on presence. You let it live there, not as enemy, not as friend, only as fact. The drums continue, steady as always. They sound different now, softer, as though heard through water, but they are no less certain. Each beat seems to coax another drop forward, another offering down, another paper darkened. You let the rhythm decide your pace. When the bowl beside you grows heavy with stained sheets, the priest lifts it and steps away. His cloak brushes lightly against your shoulder, leaving a faint trace of ash. Another priest replaces him with an empty vessel. The cycle continues. Paper, drop, bloom, bowl. You taste the blood again, sharper now, more bitter as the morning grows warmer. You swallow once more, slow and calm, then open your mouth again to let the next drop fall. It lands with the same small sound, the same soft spreading. Nothing changes, and yet the paper grows heavier. You lower your forehead briefly to the mat, resting, letting the ache settle into silence. The reeds scratch against your skin, reminding you of where you began. When you lift your head again, another drop waits. You give it. You always give it. The flavor settles in as if it paid for the privilege. It does not ask whether you enjoy it. It asks only whether you will notice it properly. You do. The iron taste spreads across the sides of your tongue first, then settles beneath, where the wound throbs with the steady tact of a drum that refuses to learn new songs. It is not sharp now. It is persistent, a low chord that keeps playing even if you pretend to listen to something else. You tilt your head a breath more and allow another bead to loosen and fall. The bark paper accepts it with the same quiet gratitude as before, the red stain blooming outward until it fades into the pale fibers. The strip has no opinion about flavor. That part is left to you. Your mouth keeps its own counsel. It collects the metal and salt and smoke and arranges them into a mixture that is not delightful, not hateful, simply unavoidable. Saliva gathers where it can. The body is considerate that way. It tries to cushion what it cannot refuse. You let it pool, then guide it back, swallowing slowly so the sting does not argue with you. The path down the throat is warm and direct. Your breath returns over the top of it, bringing incense and a faint sweetness from crushed petals somewhere at your knees. The sweetness is very polite. It steps aside for iron without complaint. You press the tip of your tongue carefully against the back of your teeth to test what remains. The wound answers with a small bright spark, no flash. Just reminder. You move the tongue back to its heavier rest and allow it to throb where it prefers. Pain, like a senior priest, enjoys choosing its own chair. You only make room. The drums keep their pace. You can feel them through the floor of your mouth, the way a jar on a shelf feels a cart passing in the street. Each beat nudges the ache, not cruelly, only regularly. It is useful, a metronome for attention. You let your breaths ride between the beats, arriving late on purpose, leaving early as if you had planned it that way. Salt from the rinse remains in the creases along the tongue's edges, a dry prickliness that makes everything else brighter. The gods do enjoy contrast. They arrange your mouth like a small landscape, resin fog at the back, iron stream down the middle, dry shorelines along the sides. Your lips hold the border like dutiful guards, tasting of ochre where you touched them by reflex and left red. That is pigment, not blood. Your mouth is a map. No one will draw it. You read it anyway. The priest moves another strip beneath you. You watch the fibers take the next drop, slow and steady. The stain spreads in a circle, edges feathering like little rivers meeting dry channels. The paper holds the mark as if it were a memory returning to its proper place. You lower your head the smallest distance more, and the next bead finds home with less persuasion. You breathe through your nose so the mouth may do its work. Resin comes first sweet, thick, the sort of sweetness that leans rather than sparkles. Beneath it, the smell of damp stone. Beneath that, the almost not there scent of your own skin warmed by sun and effort. The iron note threads through all of it, unmistakable. If a lake could bleed, you think, it would smell like this at the shoreline. The thought arrives, looks around, and finding no use, sits down and keeps quiet. You wonder how long a tongue can hold its ache without turning it into noise. It turns out the answer is as long as it needs to, especially when an entire terrace is doing the same quiet arithmetic. Silence is a shared tool. It does not dull with use. The men on either side of you keep theirs sharp. One breath rasps faintly, then steadies. Another swallows, once, then twice, carefully, like someone stepping across wet stones. Everyone is diligent. The flavor tries a new habit. It climbs the soft palate and announces itself there, a thin line of metal that points toward your nose. You exhale gently and lower it, asking it to behave. It listens well enough. The gods may prefer blood, but they do not require melodrama. Your face remains arranged the way you put it on this morning. The eyes blink when dust tickles. The brow stays smooth. The jaw does not show off. A breeze crosses the terrace, and the incense shifts lanes, sliding cooler air over your lips. The contrast wakes the cut for a heartbeat, like a sparrow flitting across a pool, then leaves it to its business. A petal loosens from somewhere above, drifts down, and rides the exhale from your mouth before settling against the tray's rim. You do not laugh. It is not funny. It is only appropriate. Even petals prefer a task. You remember the salt bowl and how the first taste pretended to prepare you. It did, but nothing repeats the body's own lesson. The iron is warmer than the salt, thicker, closer to the word heavy. It insists on memory. Years from now, if years bother to come, you will smell resin or touch ochre or hear a drum at the wrong time. And this flavor will step forward as if it has been waiting behind a door you never noticed. That is what oaths like about the tongue. It speaks to you long after you have finished speaking to it. You check the needle's seat with a patient thought, not a movement. It holds. The flesh has made a temporary agreement with bone, and the agreement is being honored. You give the arrangement another breath, then another. The pain settles into usefulness, which is all you ever asked of it. The strip beneath you grows dark. The priest slides a fresh one into place. His hands are steady, the kind of steadiness learned by doing the same small action until the body forgets any other way. He lifts the filled sheet toward a clay bowl, and air moves across your lips again. Cooler this time, a kindness that is not lost on you. You swallow once, careful. The iron steps down the throat without complaint. You allow your mind a small diversion, the memory of river stones warmed by sun, the way your teeth set against corn husk fibers when you strip them for cooking, the weight of a gourd filled with water when you carry it low, so it will not slosh. All of these are simple, all of them are steady, all of them are ways to keep the body moving without asking it to argue. The mouth appreciates companionship without conversation. Another drop forms, heavier now fat with the drum's persuasion, and falls. The paper drinks. You observe. No one applauds. This is the easiest ceremony. Gravity officiates, and you provide the guest list one bead at a time. The gods do like economy. The flavor recedes a fraction, not because there is less of it, but because the mouth, sensible creature, has learned where to put it. It becomes background firm, unmistakable, obedient. You test a breath through parted lips. Air slides in. The cut answers with a small throb. You let the lips close again, because you have proved to yourself that you can. That is enough. You rest your forehead on the mat for 3 heartbeats and feel the reeds write faint lines across your skin. When you lift again, the world is exactly where you left it. Paper, bowl, smoke, stone, drum. Your tongue is exactly where you left it, too pierced, sore, steady. You do not need it for words yet. For now it performs the simpler duty of being a vessel turned briefly into a spout. It does this well. You lower your head and give the paper another drop. The taste remains, a small sun inside your mouth, warm and insistent. You accept it without flattery. The gods can have their portion. You will keep what they do not ask for, your breath measured, your hands still, your silence intact. The morning approves of arrangements that do not require negotiation. The strip beneath you is already dark, its fibers swollen with the weight of your offering. A priest slides it away with quiet precision, setting a fresh one down, pale and waiting. You lower your head again, tongue heavy, and let another bead slip free. It lands with the same soft pat, immediately absorbed, spreading outward into thin lines that branch like rivers on dry ground. The paper does not hesitate. It takes what it is given, without question, without delay. You watch the red bloom expand, feathering into the pale surface until it disappears into texture. The strip becomes less like paper, more like memory marked, irreversible, patient. You continue, one drop, then another. Some fall quickly, round and sure. Others hesitate, clinging to the wound as if reluctant to leave, before sliding free. You tilt your head the smallest distance, careful not to disturb the stillness, and gravity persuades them. Each one finds its place on the strip. The bowl nearby grows heavier with filled papers, stacked gently by the priests. Their movements remain steady, never hurried, never careless. They lift the wet sheets as if each were fragile, though you know bark fiber is strong. Still, reverence is its own strength. Their hands are darkened by resin dust, by ash, by faint smears of ochre. Now blood joins the collection of colours. The incense thickens, stirred by a breeze that moves across the terrace. Smoke coils around the bowls, curls around your face, mixing with the iron in your mouth. You breathe it in slowly, the sweetness of copal clashing with the sharp tang of blood, until the two blend into something neither sweet nor bitter, only dense. The air feels heavier when it leaves your chest, as though carrying a trace of both. Your knees press into the mat, the ache deepening but steady. Your back curves forward, your shoulders sink lower, your hands rest heavy on the reed. You do not shift now. Movement would break the rhythm. Stillness is the easier choice. The sound of blood landing has become part of the morning. Soft, faint, yet constant, so many drops falling together that silence itself now includes them. The drums continue beneath it, the beat steady, indifferent. The two sounds merge until you cannot tell which steadies you more. You glance briefly at the paper again. The newest drop has made its bloom, round at the center, softer at the edges. It looks like the petal of a flower pressed flat. You think of the marigolds scattered earlier, their colors bright, their scent sharp. The gods are given blossoms from earth, blossoms from flesh. Both fall the same way, downward, without protest. You swallow once, the blood sliding thick down your throat. Your mouth tastes sharper for it, your tongue heavier. The ache remains steady, not less, not worse, just insistent. You let it be. Pain is not a guest you argue with here. It arrives, it sits, it waits, and you sit with it. The priest replaces your strip again. Another pale surface waits. Another bead falls. You lower your forehead briefly to the mat between drops, letting the reeds press lines into your skin, letting your eyes close against the sting. When you rise again, the air has not changed. The smoke has not lifted. The drums have not paused. The rhythm holds, and you hold with it. The bowl beside you grows heavier with its stack of stained papers. Soon it will be carried to the brazier. You imagine the strips curling and blackening, smoke rising to join the sky, carrying your drop with it. You do not picture it clearly, you do not need to. The air itself will remind you when the time comes. For now, you lower your head again. Another drop forms, another strip drinks, another bloom spreads. The ritual is not fast, nor slow. It is simply exact. The filled strips do not remain in their bowls for long. Priests move among the rows with steady arms, gathering the wet fibers one vessel at a time. Each step they take leaves the faint swish of cloak against stone, the whisper of sandals rubbing. They lift the bowls as though they contain fragile offerings. Though everyone knows bark paper is sturdy, still, the weight of what it carries deserves the careful grip. You watch as one priest bends beside the clay brazier. Its shape is round and simple, its rim darkened from many mornings. Inside, coals glow faintly, a low red that has been waiting since before dawn. The air above it wavers with heat, a shimmer that bends the light, softening the edges of everything behind it. The priest places the first paper carefully, setting it flat across the embers. For a breath, nothing happens. Then the fibers curl, edges lifting, darkening to brown, then black. A thin stream of smoke rises, blue at first, then grey, carrying the iron-sweet scent of blood changed by fire. The smoke moves upward in a narrow column, winding its way into the incense already crowding the air. Another strip follows, another curl, another smoke trail. Soon the brazier holds several layers, each sheet folding upon itself, edges cracking, centers glowing faintly as the heat consumes them. The smell sharpens. It is not unpleasant, but it is not gentle either. It presses into your nose, into your throat, reminding you that what left your body does not end in silence. It transforms and climbs. The priests fan the smoke with feathered rods, coaxing it toward the altar. Each sweep is slow, deliberate, as if they are guiding invisible words upward. The feathers bend and sway, scattering the smoke without breaking it. The air around the brazier thickens until the light seems to swim inside it. You lower your head slightly, letting the smoke pass over your face. It stings your eyes, makes them water faintly, but you do not close them. The sting belongs as much as the ache in your tongue does. You inhale through your nose, slow, and the scent fills your chest. Blood turned to smoke is thinner, sharper, less heavy than when it sat on your tongue. It leaves quicker, but it leaves its trace behind. The soldiers around you remain still, heads bowed. Their strips have joined yours in the fire now, mingled into the same smoke. You imagine them rising together, indistinguishable, the small offerings, combining into one visible cloud. The gods do not measure whose drop came from which tongue. They see only the weight of the cloud, the persistence of the smoke. The brazier pops softly as another strip catches fully, a sudden crack of heat-splitting bark fibers apart. Ash drifts upward, pale against the darker smoke, twisting before dissolving into the air. A few flakes land near your mat, soft as snow, vanishing as soon as you blink. You do not brush them away. They belong where they fall. The priest adds more strips, steady, patient, until the bowl in his hand is empty. Another follows, carrying his own stack. The cycle repeats. Place, curl, smoke, ash. The rhythm is as sure as the drums below, as sure as the pulse in your mouth. The air grows thicker, harder to separate. Resin, petals, sweat, blood. Ash each smell a thread, woven into the same cloth. You breathe it all. The smoke clings to your hair, to your cloak, to the ochre on your skin. It will linger long after you leave, a reminder carried back to your bed, to your meals, to your sleep. The brazier continues its quiet work. Each sheet burns, each strip vanishes, each offering rises. You tilt your head again, letting another drop fall onto the fresh paper below you. The cycle holds. Blood to strip, strip to fire, fire to smoke, smoke to sky. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is hurried. You rest your forehead once more against the mat, eyes closed, breath moving with the rhythm of drums and fire. When you lift again, the smoke still climbs, unbroken, unbothered by time. The brazier glows, the strips curl, the offerings vanish upward. The gods are fed in silence, and silence remains. The priest's hand rises just enough to gather the attention you were already giving. His voice comes first as breath, then as sound, the the way morning becomes day without asking anyone's permission. He does not shout. He speaks as if words are heavy stones that must be set carefully on the same line or the wall will lean. You lift your head from the mat and hold your body still, mouth parted, tongue tender, lips tacky with iron and salt. The first sentence is short. It asks nothing complicated. Stand when told to stand. Move when told to move. Remember that your breath was borrowed and will be asked for. You repeat it softly, the way water repeats the shape of the bowl that holds it. The consonants are clumsy on a pierced tongue. They find new paths around the ache and somehow arrive intact. You keep your voice low so it remains whole. Sound that stays near the teeth is steadier than sound that tries to climb out of you. The second line turns to the four directions and to the center, not as geography, but as habit. You follow, naming them in order, your jaw working slow, lips sticky where the blood dries and loosens again. You feel each word open and close inside your mouth. The wound throbs in time and then forgets itself, because ritual does not pause for small protests. You do not ask the words to be kind. Words here are not kind or unkind. They are tools. You use them as they have always been used. Another sentence. Hold the shield when the sun stands high. Keep the step even when the ground softens. Return with the same number of steps you left with, if numbers decide to be reasonable. You repeat this quietly, careful with sounds that require the tongue to press. Your breath warms the cut, and the pain brightens briefly, then folds back into its chair. The drumbeat measures the distance between phrases. It is generous. It gives you time. The priest's voice is full of smoke now, not from drama, only from the day's air working its way through him. He lays down a line about maize the seed in the earth, the paste on stone, the steam that rises whether you watch it or not. You answer, promising to respect each form it takes, from kernel to porridge to the strength in your legs when the road is longer than patience. Your voice sounds rougher than it did at dawn, but it stands up. Rough is not failure. Rough is texture. A promise arrives concerning hands, yours, the ones beside you, the ones that will lift with yours, so that a thing too heavy for one becomes easy for many. You repeat it, looking nowhere, holding the words in your mouth as if they were a small bowl you cannot afford to drop. The cut answers with a brief pulse. You keep the phrase steady anyway, and the pulse, realizing you are not impressed, quiets. There is a line about keeping order when noise would be simpler. You say it exactly as given. The terrace, full of bodies, manages to feel wider, as if discipline makes more room than empty space ever does. Your voice finds a low place to live and stays there. You are not alone in this. Everyone's voice rides the same slow river. No one tries to be an island. The gods disapprove of islands at the wrong time. The oath turns, as oaths must, to the mouths that eat because others lift. You repeat the names. Elders first, children next, strangers who stand under your protection whether you are ready for them or not. Your tongue works around the consonants and finds solutions without asking for applause. Salt pricks the margins of taste. The iron is calmer now, a background note that keeps your attention honest. A short clause concerns speech. Hold it until it is useful. Release it without vanity when it is asked. Refuse it when it would be cheaper than silence. You echo it word for word. The irony is tidy. You are using speech to promise not to misuse speech. The priest does not mind. The gods like neat circles. You swallow once, slow, and the ache nods and sits back down. There is a pause for breath, not a dramatic pause. The kind that happens when lungs remember their work. A brush of feathers moves smoke aside, and the priest begins again with a promise about feet. Keep them ordinary, put them where the path is. Do not let them invent errands for pride. You repeat it with every toe grounded on the mat, because it would be silly to promise for feet that are not paying attention. A line about night follows how to carry darkness without turning it into fear, how to find your mat again when the courtyard is only sound and smell, how to remember that stars also count attendance. You answer with quiet vowels that carry less pain than hard consonants. The sentence includes no numbers, and yet you feel counted. You do not find this threatening. Being counted simply means you exist where you said you would. The oath returns to blood, but now as measure, not spectacle. Give the small portion when the calendar asks. Keep the rest for work. Waste none. Boast never. You repeat it carefully, the word for never sticking, and then coming free like a petal from damp stone. Your lips taste bitter and faintly sweet at once. You decide not to have an opinion about that. A softer passage names the ancestors and the ones not yet here, whose hunger you are keeping places for, whose feet will test these same stones. You reply without looking up. The sky does not require your eyes to do its job. Your chest tightens once, then loosens. The drum insists on symmetry and you comply. The priest offers a line about error. It will arrive. When it does, correct it without advertisement. Make amends where they fit. Do not invent extra punishments as if pain were decoration. You echo this with gratitude you do not say aloud. Restraint has more authority than punishment. Someone sensible put that sentence in long ago, and no one removed it. You speak a promise to carry what is yours, and to set down what is not, to tell the difference by weight and by the way it behaves in your hands. Your voice catches on one consonant and you slow it until it cooperates. The cut protests at being supervisor and then remembers it is not. A brief line mentions the reed and the rope, the ways people are bound to tasks and to one another. You repeat it, already feeling the next part of the ritual waiting nearby, not impatient, simply present. Your tone stays level. Anticipation is not urgency, it is awareness with manners. The closing sentence arrives without flourish, the way a door closes when it fits the frame. The priest names the directions again, the waters, the fires, the winds, the ground, the breath. He lays them one after another until the list becomes a floor. You step onto it with your voice. The last word is not loud, it is placed. Silence arrives promptly, like a guest who knows when to stop eating. You keep your head level and your mouth closed. The ache has done its part and is willing to stay. Your lips feel tacky, then dry, then ordinary again. The oath has been spoken. No one applauds. You do not want them to. The point was never volume. It was agreement. Your voice stood up under its small burden and did not wobble. The gods, famous for preferring consistency to spectacle, have nothing to correct. Breath in, breath out. The line holds. The stone remains unsurprised. The smoke remembers its job and continues upward. You say nothing further, because nothing further is needed. The hush that follows spoken promises is unlike other silences. It is not the silence of absence, nor the silence of sleep. It is a silence shaped by sound, pressed flat by repetition, and made solid by the weight of agreement. You remain in it now, with others beside you, your shoulders level and your mouth still. The air does not rush to fill the gap. It lingers, patient, as if reluctant to intrude. The priest lowers his hands. The feather fan dips once, and the smoke sways lazily as if confused by its own idleness. Drums soften to a heartbeat that barely insists. The cut in your tongue reminds you of its presence, but politely now, a dull ache softened into memory. The metallic edge of taste has faded to something quieter, more like the coin you once held in your palm too long. The mat beneath your knees feels less like a burden and more like a foundation. Around you, bodies lean and shift. Not abruptly, but with the kind of weariness that comes after tension has ended. You sense the weight of many eyes not on you but around you, with you. No one is singled out. All are folded into the same woven fabric. The oath has been spoken, and now the threads have locked into place. You breathe into that idea, your chest rising, as if it had been waiting for this line to end. The priest murmurs something short and final, a phrase meant only to close the moment. You hear it, let it brush past, and allow it to dissolve. You do not need to remember it. Not all words are meant for keeping. Some are designed only to vanish once spoken. A faint ripple of breath passes through the group. The sound is soft, like wind through thick grass. The smoke loosens and thins, curling upward. A clay bowl is set down somewhere in the courtyard with a small knock. You notice it because your senses have opened wide, stretched out by silence. After oaths, even the smallest sound feels enlarged. The space feels lighter now, though nothing has changed. The same bodies, mats, drums, and smoke are still here, yet the air carries less weight. Your shoulders ease, not dramatically, but enough to show they are finished with their role. Your tongue throbs again, an echo of the cut, then quiets. You swallow. The taste is still present, but you no longer resist it. A faint breeze passes through the open stone courtyard. It smells of damp earth, crushed herbs, and human presence. You tilt your face toward it, and the coolness brushes across your cheek. Around you, mats are folded. They are not rushed. Each corner is aligned, each roll slow. The sound of woven fiber against itself is more noticeable than conversation. Words are few now. None feel necessary. You fold yours in the same rhythm, smoothing, pressing, rolling, until the mat fits neatly under your arm. The ceremony has ended. The oath has moved from mouth to air, from air to memory, from memory into binding. Nothing more is demanded of you now. You rise slowly, as others do, without urgency. Stone greets your feet again, hard and certain. The priest steps back from the altar, not in triumph, not in exhaustion, but in routine. He has led many oaths before, and he will lead more after. His face carries no expression of surprise. It is a face that has stood in smoke 1,000 times. The courtyard breathes with a different rhythm now. The drumming has stopped, but the echo seems to linger in your ribs. Voices return, though not loudly. They murmur in low tones, like streams running under rocks. Laughter does not belong here, not yet, but small sighs do. A child yawns somewhere at the edge of the space. No one scolds them. You glance upward, past the rising smoke, to the roof beams of the temple. The wood is darkened from years of fires, its surface lined with smoke scars. You imagine how many oaths it has overheard, and how little it has judged them. The beams do not remember names. They remember only the shape of smoke. You step aside to let others pass. Sand crunches under feet. Mats shift from hand to hand. Some men place their hands briefly on one another's shoulders, not as conversation, but as confirmation. The touch says, "We were here. We know what was spoken." You receive one such touch and answer it with your own. Outside the temple walls, noises drift faintly in. The call of vendors packing baskets, the grunt of animals shifting in their pens, the uneven rhythm of wooden wheels over ruts. Life presses at the edges of ceremony, ready to reclaim its place. The priest begins collecting the ritual tools. The obsidian knife is rinsed in a clay bowl. The fan is folded. The bowl of herbs is scattered into the brazier. Nothing is discarded carelessly. Even the smallest item is handled with slow finality, as though to signal to the watching eyes that the sacred is not dropped, only put away. You adjust the mat under your arm. Your tongue still burns faintly, and you feel it when you swallow. Yet it no longer distracts you. It has become a mark that belongs in your mouth now, a reminder carried forward. When you step beyond the boundary of the courtyard, the sky greets you. It is the same sky, of course, but it feels altered by what you carry. Clouds drift like lazy feathers. Light falls without demand. You walk into it, not lighter, not heavier, simply changed in the way a stone is changed once carved. The path away from the temple slopes gently, worn by countless feet. Dust clings to sandals and drifts into the folds of woven garments. You hear the shuffle of others walking beside you, some alone in thought, some whispering in pairs. No one rushes. Oaths have no need for haste. Your tongue pulses with a slow rhythm. You breathe through your nose and taste faint iron at the back of your throat. It is no longer sharp enough to demand attention. It simply exists, like a pebble in a stream, altering the flow but not stopping it. You pass a wall painted with figures. Warriors stand tall, their tongues marked with tiny red strokes. You pause to notice them, wondering if each painted tongue stands for a moment like yours. You imagine all the breaths that once held the same taste. The wall does not answer. It only holds color. A woman ahead of you carries a basket. She places it down briefly to shift her shawl, then picks it up again. You observe this without judgment, without thought of helping. It is a movement ordinary enough to be part of the rhythm of leaving. Your feet keep time with the sound of hers. Farther along, incense drifts from another courtyard, carried by the same wind that cooled your cheek earlier. You realize the whole city breathes in cycles of smoke and silence. One courtyard exhales, another inhales. The air stitches them together like thread-binding cloth. When you reach a small plaza, others scatter into different directions. Some toward markets, some toward canals, some toward homes you do not know. You remain for a moment in the open space. The stones here are warm under the sun. Your shadow lies long and thin at your feet, reminding you that the sun has moved on while you were indoors. Time, uninterested in oaths, keeps its pace. You shift the mat to your other arm. The weight is small, but the gesture feels significant. You swallow again, tasting the last edges of metal. The sting in your tongue softens further. It is a wound and not a wound, both pain and memory. You accept it. By the time you reach the edge of the marketplace, the ceremony feels both close and distant. Close in the way your tongue still remembers, distant in the way noise erases silence. Vendors call softly, displaying baskets of fruit and folded cloth. You drift through the rows without urgency. You pause at a stall where flowers are laid on reed mats. Their colors are bright, their scents sharp. The vendor does not ask what you want. They know why you pause, not to buy, but to steady yourself among familiar things. You lean slightly over the flowers and let the fragrance replace the taste on your tongue. Children dart past, laughing at nothing in particular. Their voices cut through the calm, but only briefly. They do not notice you. They do not ask where you have been. Life has no need to ask. It simply continues. You sit on the edge of a low wall. Your mat rests beside you. The stone beneath you is warm, sun-soaked. You press your palms against it, grounding yourself. A clay jug of water is passed nearby, and you take a sip when offered. The liquid cools your throat. For a moment, the cut stirs again, then falls quiet. You let your gaze wander. People move, voices overlap, smells rise and fall. A man sharpens obsidian blades, dragging stone against stone. A woman plucks maize kernels from a cob, dropping them into a clay bowl with soft taps. A boy tosses a reed ball in the air, catching it clumsily. You watch without judgment. Their motions are part of a larger stillness. The oath remains with you, but it does not intrude. It sits quietly in the background, like smoke that has already lifted but left its scent behind. As dusk lowers, you make your way home. The sky softens to a dull rose, then to grey. Shadows stretch long across stone paths. Torches are lit at doorways, their flames licking upward, brighter than they were at midday. Your tongue still bears its mark, but it has grown quieter. The pain is less pain now, and more memory. You swallow easily, you breathe evenly. The body is your own again, though chained. At home, the courtyard is calm. The clay walls glow faintly in the last light. A small brazier smoulders. You place your mat down against the wall and sit beside it. The air is cooler here, carrying the smell of damp earth and faint wood smoke. You tilt your head back and look upward. Stars begin to blink into view, one by one. Their quiet arrival feels appropriate. Oaths are spoken with blood and breath, but they are held by time, and time does not need to announce itself loudly. You run your tongue across the wound once more, not to test it, but to remind yourself it exists. The taste has faded nearly to nothing. Only the faintest edge remains. You accept it as part of you now, like a scar on the skin or a crease in cloth. The night thickens. Voices around the city soften. Somewhere, a drum beats faintly, not for ceremony but for rhythm, a background heartbeat of ordinary life. You breathe with it, your eyes half closed. You feel no need to rise again. The oath has been spoken, the temple has emptied, the day has passed. All that remains is the quiet, and the quiet is enough. You sit with yourself now, in the hush that always follows. The city is far enough away that its noise cannot press on you. The torches in the distance flicker, but they do not demand your eyes. What remains is only the softness of air against your skin, the steady beat of your breath, and the faint echo of what has passed. You have given words to silence, and silence has accepted them. You have tasted iron, and now the taste is gone. You have leaned on stone, and the stone still holds you. Nothing else is required. Let your shoulders lower a little more. Let your hands rest where they fall. There is no ritual left to complete, no sound left to follow, no duty left to fulfill. The mat beneath you, the air around you, and the sky above you are enough. The stars multiply slowly, their small lights opening like seeds across the dark. You do not need to count them. You do not need to know their name. It is enough that they arrive quietly on their own time. Your body feels heavy now, but not with burden. Heavy in the way that a stone rests against the earth, needing no reason to be where it is. Your breath follows the same rhythm, falling and rising, without hurry. Whatever words were spoken, they remain behind you. Whatever promises were bound, they now belong to time. You carry only stillness forward. And as you close your eyes, you let the silence lengthen, not as emptiness, but as a soft cover. A cover that keeps you, steadies you, and carries you gently into sleep. We hope this glimpse into old customs has been a calm and pleasant one. If it made you curious for more, you can like, share, or leave a kind comment. And if you wish, subscribe to be here for the next unhurried tradition we explore together. End of script. Sweet dreams.